Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Smoke Room. We have a special guest who's going to help answer questions. Minister MEECH, lighting the match, sparking the flames, setting it off. All right, brother, we're going to get right into this. Tell people who you are, what you do, where you can be found, and I'm dropping the link for people to come on in. Why you do this, we're multitasking. Israelite smoke especially, so we want all Hebrew Israelites tonight. Come on in, talk. All right, go ahead, brother.
All right, so yeah, my name is Minister MEECH. MEECH is just kind of my nickname, Demetrius Maddox, government name. I'm from Ohio originally, living out in Okinawa, Japan right now. Been studying for about close to like 15 years now. Really just on and off, but the last, I would say 7 years, real deep into studies and really trying to figure out certain things of the faith. Came across Hebrew Israelites about, I want to say like 4 years ago, and really started getting into some of those discussions. One of the big ones we did was we went over the virgin birth and started sprouting out to other things, the Trinity, Romans 11, Gentile salvation, things like that. You guys can find me at Minister MEECH on YouTube. You just type in Minister space MEECH. On TikTok, Minister_MEECH7. You guys can find me. I got a few videos there. Got a few things in the works right now. Trying to get some good studies. I got a few discussions I'll be posting pretty soon. So yeah, that's about it. And thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So who do you work with on a regular? Who are some of your partners in the ministry?
Some of my partners in the ministry, not necessarily all of them are on YouTube. Some of them are just, brothers from my church over at Grace and Truth Ministries in Nashville, Tennessee. We have a lot of discussions. We'll sit down with other people and have, discussions either online, offline. I also did a lot of work with Unbiased Sports. He does a lot of different debates on his channel. And at one point he was doing the virgin birth, and he's done a little bit of Gentile salvation. So then I've also been on Jim Green's channel a couple times. And I want to say there's maybe a few others, not that I can name right now, but yeah, I can't think of them off the top of my head. But yeah, those are just some of the few people.
Any upcoming plans for 2025, or hopes, maybe dreams, visions, what you got for 2025?
Honestly, nothing on the YouTube side. I'm really looking to master Greek this year. That's my goal. Master Greek. It's hard because I'm trying to learn Greek and Hebrew at the same time, and it really isn't, it's not working. So I'm just going the whole year straight Greek, really looking to master it. So.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, hot diggity dog. Okay, so I have dropped the live chat link. That means you can come on in. It's pinned right now. But listen, audience, you can drop your questions. Just give us a little cue with a question mark, and we'll bring you up. Because right now, don't have anyone pinging us yet. But we'll give a shout out to the live chat and then ask you guys to drop your questions. And we got Purely Grounded and David and Doki Doki. Thank you for all the help, Doki. PJ, Warrior Woman from the other side. Thank you so much. We got IOC, Israelite Only Camp Killer. Shout out to you, DWC. And we also have Yahweh Shai Mashiach. Where is there enmity? All right, so this is our first question because we are taking it from the live chat as well. Let me put it right here. Where is there enmity or difference between Christian and Israel when Christ is the father of Israel, who was the face? Christ said Abraham saw and was glad. Let's end all confusion. The issue I have is those cults, I see UPK being identified and called Hebrew Israelites, when Christ calls them devils, because in John 8, Christ was going to war with him, claiming to be Jews, and are not. Well, I'd prefer if you can jump on, but we will try to get to your question and see what you want to say. MEECH, can you, I think, why is there enmity between Christians in Israel? He means by that, it seems like Hebrew Israelites who aren't campers. That's how I take the question. What do you think, and how would you Answer it.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is the Israel only salvation doctrine. Because I've met Hebrew Israelites that say, hey, we're Israelites, but non Israelites can be saved. I
Right.
have no issue kind of breaking bread with them and looking at other things. Because it's kind of similar to Judaism. Their stumbling block is the Messiah. If they accept the Messiah, now we're on equal playing ground, and now we can really break bread and look at things. Um, so I think that's the biggest issue is rejecting salvation for non-Israelites, and just the way they go about that. So I would say that's the biggest contention.
So, what do you think of his calling the camps devils?
In general, I agree with that. I don't agree with saying every single person is, because there's always that one person in that camp that will come out or might come out at some point. But yeah, in general, I would say that is the case, because they spew a lot of false doctrine, especially just looking at many of the things that Captain has said on his live stream about different various things. So yeah, just I think just looking at those different doctrines and understanding which ones are a big deal, like dealing with salvation, is very key to understanding if a whole camp or whole denomination is, I would say, antichrist, against Christ.
Why specifically you mentioned Captain Tazaryak? What's up with
That
him?
that's
What did he
just
say?
that's who I think of when I think of ISUPK. He's kind of just the face of ISUPK for me, So
Well, and did you debate him, or I know you reviewed the debate we did.
right. No, it was Ron. Unbiased Sports. That's his name, Ron. He
Okay, yeah.
debated. He debated Captain, and that was interesting too because they had planned it all out, and they didn't say it was going to be timed. He thought it was going to be like a dialogue, and they didn't tell him when it was going to be. They
Hmm.
springed it on him last minute,
Hmm.
and there was a poll in Sonetta's chat, and Unbiased ended up winning 51-49, which was it's pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think when I met you guys sort of online, it was like you guys did a lot of live stream together. I think at that time
Hmm.
it was
Yeah.
you guys
We
cooperated a
debated a
lot.
lot of people, like a lot of people. Like, I think it was Corey who moderated you guys' debate, right?
I think so. You think he had him
Yeah.
on? I think he had him
We
on.
had him on. We definitely had him on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got our first person. Let's see if the preparation we made beforehand works out. That's why we were working on stuff. Let's see how it looks out, how it turns out. Thank you for the first question there, by the way. And I saw one other thing in the live chat I was supposed to respond to. Somebody said something. Where did they say it? Oh, shout out to IOCK and Purely Grounded for our first two super chats. I don't want to miss those before we go to our first caller. So thank you very much. And you know what you guys get. Let's see. I got some new sound effects. Let's go with, you know what I like? I like this. Thunder. That's for the super chatter so far. Thank you very much, both of y'all, for coming through. All right, so here we are. We're switching over to J3. Apologetics is live with Minister Meech and Vocab Malone in the smoke room. You got to unmute yourself. Tell us what's happening.
Hey, what's going on, brother? No, I was I seen I clicked the link that you had sent me, so I just
Yeah.
jumped on. How you guys doing, bro?
Good. We're trying to do a focused Hebrew Israelite, calling all Israelites, come jump on, smoke room. So that includes Christians want to bring specific questions or issues related to that topic tonight, because usually a smoke room is for everybody, but we're trying to make it specific. So do you want to bring smoke to the Hebrew Israelites, J3? You got something you want to contend with them?
Yeah. How did they always bring up Isaiah 14, and they have it in their carnal minds that they're gonna have slaves and servants in the kingdom. But in my opinion, when I read Ezra chapter 2 and Nehemiah chapter 10, and you see Solomon's servants, that has been fulfilled already. So I want to ask them that. What's up with that? they always run from that.
Well, have you got to have many conversations with these guys or gals yourself?
Yeah, but they go. Usually, what happens is they go to Isaiah 60 or Isaiah 63, and they never deal with the text.
Yeah. Well, if you were going to instruct a Christian in how to use some of those passages in dialogue, what advice would you give them?
I would have them really study the history, the historical context of just Judah, like going into captivity and then coming back from Babylon. Just to study Ezra, Nehemiah, that whole historical context, and you'll see. Pretty basically just read.
Oh, my bad. Is that my phone? Is that my phone talking? Yeah, okay, my phone was, I had the show on. I knew it. That's my bad. Shout out to Andrea. Andrea runs the Street Apologist radio Instagram page and does an amazing job. And also shout out to Salvation for All, like in the name, for the super chat. You get the heroic intro. That's for you. All right. So, yeah, that's good. Go ahead, brother. My bad. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I would say, too, like, just like when you're dealing with anybody else, that any other, any other cult, like, don't let them go to a different verse. Like, make them deal with the text. Right. Because what you coined, the Hebrew hopscotch, that's what they do a lot. You bring up a verse and, they go to Isaiah 28, precept must be upon precept, but they actually never deal with the text that you brought. They want to go somewhere else to try to make it seem like it contradicts the text that you brought.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what DWC says. Isaiah 14 literally doesn't speak of the Israelites having slaves in the kingdom. It literally refers to the king of Babylon and Babylon falling in that time. They really don't know history. You know what? Meech, can you go to Isaiah 14? You're the DJ. Meech is the one running Logos. So we got Logos up, the Bible software. And the way we got it is Meech is doing it. We got a couple great apologists in the building before we transition to slides. We got In Context with Jim Green. Everyone subscribe to his channel, please. And we've got Alton Johnson. Everyone subscribe to his channel as well. And we've also got IOCK. I guess you could subscribe to him too. He's a little wild, but it's all right.
You got some fun stuff, though.
Yeah. He does have some fun stuff, though, doesn't he? What's some of the wild stuff he's got on there? Yeah, he's got some wild
He's
stuff.
Got a good page.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys want any like type of Hebrew Israelite news, go to his channel.
Right.
Most likely he's talking about the beef and what's going on.
Right. All right, so we're switching over to Isaiah 14 now. It's on the screen. So, Meech, how do they use this, and what do we want to show as far as dealing with the person in the live chat? DWC was bringing up how it has to do with Babylon. You want to comment on this? Is this a passage you've dealt with before or looked at before?
I haven't dealt with this specifically, but I've dealt with others like this, like Isaiah 60. That's another one they like to go to. But I haven't dealt with this specifically. So if you want to take this one over, I can read for you.
Well, briefly, everyone just look at verse 1 and 2. These are the main places that a one Wester will use this as proof that they're going to have Gentile slaves. For the Lord will have compassion on Jacob. So we understand Jacob's synonymous a lot of times with Israel, and you see it there. It says, and will again choose Israel, and will set them in their own land, and sojourners will take them and will attach themselves to the house of Jacob. So this is all interesting because you ask yourself, what's going on so far? Because notice how it says sojourners will join them and will attach themselves. Mm-hmm. Does this sound forced to you?
No.
And also, what are scripture verses about sojourners? Everyone should keep the context in mind about what it says about sojourners. So you should be thinking of that way because it's mentioning sojourners. Like, okay, the peoples will take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel, now here's the key focus that they focus on. So, we're looking at the whole thing. The house of Israel will possess them in the Lord's land as male and female slaves. They will take captives those who were their captors and rule over those who oppress them. So, just like the person said, DWC, this is about Babylon. How do we know? Can you read the very next verse, Meech?
Verse 3. Yeah.
Yes.
When the Lord has given you rest from your pain and turmoil and the hard service which you were made to serve, you will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon. How the oppressor has ceased, the insolent fury ceased. So you want me to stop there?
Well, yeah. So you notice so who's the taunt going to be against, everybody?
Oh, the king of Babylon.
Yeah. So everyone should see that. And these are Israelites who are going to be released out of Babylonian captivity. The Lord has given you rest from your pain and turmoil. So this is talking to them then. Hard service. Well, when did that happen? It's talking about Babylonian captivity, which you're made to serve. You will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon. So it doesn't make sense to say this unless it's talking about what it's talking about. How the oppressor has ceased, the insolent fury has ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of rulers, struck the peoples in wrath with unceasing blows. It's about when Babylon conquered them. And so that's the context. They've got to read America into this. Or really what they do is, though, they just read everybody, and then they read themselves. David brings up a point. If you could go to verse 10. The language of the Septuagint there is identical to Achior in Judith 14:10 when he joined. Could you read there Isaiah 14:10? Yeah.
All of them will answer and say to you, you too have become as weak as we, and you have become like us.
And so this isn't being translated out of the Septuagint. So he's talking about the Septuagint reading, so the Greek phraseology. And the Greek phraseology, when it's translated in English out of Judith 14:10, it says this right here. When Achior saw all that God of Israel had done, he believed firmly in God, so he was circumcised and joined the house of Israel, remaining so to this day. By the way, this is a convert right there in the apocryphal books you have. So that's important, first of all. But he's making the point that the phraseology in the Greek matches this. And so you have a clear indication of what's going on. You have some people who are basically coming willingly. So it's not just, hey, we're going to have slaves. It's also these people are going to be joining up with us willingly. And then you have this, which is the next verse I was going to get to, but we got a great live chat tonight. They're on it. IOCK brings up this. If you could go to Ezra 2:1, Meech, please. Ezra 2:1 plus 64:65 destroys their use of Isaiah 14. And so what's Ezra about, everybody? Well, it's a post-exilic book. So you have Israel coming back from captivity. And look what Ezra 2 says in verse 1, and then we'll go to the end of it.
Now these are the children of the province that went up out of the captivity, of those which have been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away unto Babylon, and came again unto Jerusalem and Judah, everyone unto his city. So this is direct correlation to Isaiah 14.
Yes, everyone should see Isaiah 14 is clearly a prophecy about the end of the Babylonian captivity. What's Ezra 2? It's about the end of the Babylonian captivity. So it's being fulfilled. It's clearly the same thing. And now when you go to the end, verse 64, 65, it's important to see what happens. They simply don't like this because they want it to be future enslavement of a bunch of people, and it's like it destroys their misuse. But look what verse 64 and 65 says.
The whole congregation together was 42,303, beside their servants and their maids, of whom there were 7,337. There were among them 200 singing men and singing women.
So did Israel
talk about the servants right there?
Yep. Do you guys see that?
I was going to say too, and not only that, in Nehemiah chapter 10, verse 28. All the way down to 30, you see those temple servants, those non-Israelites, they get sworn into the covenant. So that kind of just throws a wrench into the theology as well.
Brother, could you bring that one up? You said Nehemiah 10?
Yeah, Nehemiah 10, verse 28.
I'm definitely spelling this wrong. Verse 28.
And then read down to verse 30.
When I was in Sunday school, they had a pretty corny joke, and they would go, hey, kids, who is the shortest prophet? We don't know who. And it was not even, it's funny because he's not even really a prophet, but or they would sometimes say, who's the shortest person in the Bible? Maybe that's what they would. Who's the shortest person in the Bible? That was the question. People go, Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus is, no, not Zacchaeus. They would name some other people. And they go, the shortest person in the Bible was Nehemiah. These are Sunday school jokes, people. Hey, shout out to Pastor Tanks, Apologetics for you. Everyone subscribe to his channel. Pastor Tanks, if you like what you see where I've got other brothers doing a smoke room, right now we're just taking questions from the live chat. Haven't had any Israelites call in. I'd like to have you on the future too, where you're doing smoke room as well. So think about that and maybe look at your schedule. Let's talk it out. Okay, so could you read, what are the places, J3, you want him to read?
Verse 28 through 30.
Okay. And the rest of the people, the priests, the Levites, the porters, the singers, the Nethanins, and all they that had separated themselves from the people of the lands unto the law of God, their wives, their sons, their daughters, everyone having knowledge and having understanding, they clave to their brethren, their nobles, and entered into a curse and into an oath to walk in God's law, which was given by Moses, the servant of God, and to observe and do all the commandments of the Lord our God, and his judgments and his statutes, that we would not give our daughters unto the people of the land, nor take their daughters for our sons.
What's beautiful there is the word Nethinims. It just means temple servants. And then we see in 1 Kings chapter 9, Solomon's temple servants are actually Gentiles, non-Israelites. And then you see in Ezra chapter 2 that the descendants of those temple servants came back from the captivity back to Jerusalem to help the Israelites rebuild the temple and stuff. So can't really get around that.
1 Kings 9, what verse? Do you know what verse off the top? Man, it sounds like while you're looking for that, shout out to Brother Bill for the super chat, and shout out to David for the super chat. Would you believe it or not, this is usually not done so early in the show. We've actually unlocked the goal of super chats. And what that means is the promise I gave to you is that if we unlock 5 super chats at this show, we will do another smoke room already next week. Because usually they're about once a month. But I said, hey, if you like it, you like it. So looks like, guess what, everybody? Next week, we are going to be doing another smoke room. Awesome, because you guys unlocked it. That's excellent. Okay, so go ahead. What you got, J3?
So it's 1 Kings chapter 9.
All right.
And then just for the complete context, we can start at verse 15 and then go down to 22. And that tells you who Solomon's temple servants are.
Okay. And this is the reason of the levy which King Solomon raised for to build the house of the Lord and his own house in Milo and the wall of Jerusalem and Hazor and Megiddo and Gezer. For Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Gezer and burnt it with fire and slain the Canaanites that dwelt in the city and given it for a present unto his daughter, Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Gezer and Beth-horon, the nether, and Baalath and Tadmor in the wilderness, in the land, and all the cities of store that Solomon had, and cities for his chariots, and cities for his horsemen, and that which Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, and in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. And all the people that were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, their children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel also were not able utterly to destroy, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bond service unto this day. Verse 22 as well.
Yeah, I believe so. I think yeah.
But of the children of Israel. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but go ahead and read verse 22. I'm sorry.
No, okay. But of the children of Israel did Solomon make no bondmen, but they were men of war, and his servants, and his princes, and his captains, and rulers of his chariots, and his horsemen.
See, perfect. Yeah.
Right.
See, Solomon didn't use any Israelites for any temple servants. So it was all the Amorites, the Hittites, Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and remember, these are the descendants that came back after the Babylonian captivity in Ezra chapter 2.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we might return to Isaiah 60 later. We'll see what's up with that. I see you, Lee Ya. I'm going to get you in here in a second. But real quick, let me answer a question that's important to answer from Orthodox Moore. I see you, Orthodox Moore. He says, I heard you say in a previous live that you had a debate coming up. Is that still happening? If so, when and where? By the way, good listening skills or whatnot, brother. Yes, as of now, it is scheduled on Paradigm Shift TV. That's our brother Pianki. And it's supposed to be against a guy named Anonymous Hebrew. Anonymous Hebrew, I believe that's his name. He's done some debates on there before. And the thesis to be resolved is the church better than Israel? Yeah. Is the church, that's what it is, believe it or not. It's a little shocking one, but that's what it is. Is the church better than Israel? That's right. Now, check it out. J3, I don't know if you're down to come back at some point because Meech only has like 30 minutes left. But for now, I want to make sure I get some of the guests in here. If you're able, you can swoop back around after Meech leaves.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, man. God bless you.
If you're able to, yeah, when Meech leaves, let me know if you want to jump on and answer the rest of the questions. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
All right, God bless. We'll be back with you. All right,
Thanks for jumping on, man.
Yes, sir. You did a great job. Good work, man. That was dope to have him jump on. All right. Totally.
I never heard that point before. That was a good point.
Elia, we got you live in the smoke room. What's going on? Let's see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Tell us what's going on.
Okay. Yeah. Peace. Yeah. Peace. Shalom and salam alaikum to some. I hope everybody's having a great day, especially in these days and times that we're living in. I have a 1 Peter 3:15 salvation question, and this is for all followers of Christ. I do not judge anyone if they say that their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is, that they believe Christ to rise from the dead on the third day for their salvation. I don't, judge them. To me, that's a Christian, a follower of Christ. So this is a question for all followers of Christ, whether you're Chinese or Italian or Israelite, black person, no matter what your nationality is. If your religion or your practice is to follow Christ, I have a 1 Peter 3:15 salvation question for you.
All right.
And
let's hear the question real quick. Let me acknowledge in the live chat. Shout out to Ralph P for the super chat. Ralph, we're going to get to your question next because we prioritize the super chat question. Thank you. It's a great question. But we're going to talk to this brother since he called in. And then also, everyone subscribe to BK Apologist. Hopefully, I'm coming out to Brooklyn soon and get to see you out there, BK. Everyone subscribe to him. And thank you, everyone, for being so active in the live chat tonight. Okay, what's the question? What is the question?
Oh, okay, great. In 1 Corinthians 15:17 and 4, Christ to rise from the dead on the third day is the foundation for salvation for all followers of Christ. And want to know, where is that written in the law and the prophets? Did the Creator say these words in the Torah, like Christ said in Luke 24:46, the words in red? Christ said, therefore thus it is written, Christ to rise from the dead on the third day. Where is it written? Where's your foundation?
You're saying in the Torah you want it to be written that the Messiah must rise on the third day? Is that what you're saying? Hello? Are you still there? Hey, Elia. Okay.
You kind of jumped to a few verses. I thought
Yeah. Luke 24:46, the words are in red. Jesus claimed that, that it is written. So I just want to know, where is it written? Where is your spiritual foundation for salvation through Christ? And is this something based upon, something that I call, I believe in praising God by saying hallelujah. So where did the Creator Yah say these words? Is your foundation based upon His words? Did the prophets say anything about this?
Yeah, yeah.
Was Jesus mistaken? I don't know.
No.
Where's it written?
All right.
Christ to
Yeah.
rise
So
from the
let
dead
me
on
read the
Thursday.
first verse before we kind of go forward. So you said Luke 24:46, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And said unto them, thus it is written, and thus it behooved Christ to suffer and to rise from the dead the third day. So my initial thoughts from this is that it's not saying that it's written that he's going to rise from the dead the third day. Because if you go up to verse 44, it says, and he said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled which were written in the law of Moses and in the prophets and in the Psalms concerning me. So when he says, thus it is written, he's referring.
Hold on.
Where's it written?
Let him finish. Yeah. Let him finish there. Go ahead.
So when he says, thus it is written, he's speaking about the entirety of Tanakh and everything that he comes to do. And then he says, and thus it behooved Christ to suffer, because the Old Testament speaks of Christ suffering and to rise from the dead the third day. That doesn't necessitate that it's explicitly written.
So that's a
Okay,
key.
so you're
Hold on.
saying
I'm
that-
gonna piggyback on that. So
Yeah.
a key there is about the suffering of the Messiah. That's the key there, is that the Messiah must suffer.
No. The foundation.
Well, hold on. Let me
is,
slow down. So the foundation.
when you say the
is
key, because in 1 Corinthians 15,
Elia, I'm going to
17,
answer the question. I'm going to tell you. You cut me off and saying no, but hold on. So the key there is that the Christ is suffering, and that's where you get the servant song, because you have Christ atoning for the sins of others, the suffering servant, and that he's identified as the Messiah. I did a debate with that, I believe, against, was it Jude and Nat? Who did I debate on that? It was a good debate. So that's one thing that's important, is to understand that that's the real foundation. Now, how many days or which day is interesting, but there's
No, when you say,
but there's two.
are you going against?
There are two
Yeah,
places.
you're
There
going-
are two places.
I'm asking a question.
There's one in Hosea
I'm
and
just
there's
asking you a
one in
question.
Jonah. But there are two places I'm going to take you to.
No, before you go there, I'm asking
Okay.
I'm asking a question. Because you're throwing a lot of stuff out there, right?
I'm
And
answering
you're
your.
moving
I'm
the
answering your.
goalposts.
No, hold on, man.
No, you're not.
Elia,
You're talking about
listen.
suffering. I didn't ask you anything about suffering, sir.
Elia, I'm correcting the misconceptions in your question. You're talking about what's the foundation,
my
and what
question
I'm
is
telling. Stop interrupting me. My goodness. What I'm saying is I'm correcting the misconceptions in your question. So if you're telling us as Christians what our foundation is, I'm telling you it's not that somewhere in the Old Testament it says the Messiah will rise on the third day. What I'm saying the foundation is the suffering and atoning work. That's what the suffering servant song is about. And that's what MEECH brought out right in the beginning is the most important thing. You're making an emphasis on the third day element. What I'm telling you is that's not the foundation of the whole program. However, it is hinted at and alluded to in the Old Testament. Christ brings this up in one place, and there's another verse in Hosea that also is a hint towards that. So you do have these indications in the Old Testament.
Okay, before we go there, we're going to go there, right? Because Wes Huff exposed Billy Carson because Billy Carson claimed something was not written. And now Christ in you, well, not you, but Christ is claiming that it is written. Christ to rise from the dead on the third day, that Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15:17, if Christ be not risen, then your faith is in vain and you're yet in your sins. So that is the foundation of the gospel.
Yeah, the resurrection is the foundation of the gospel.
That's right, but
That's
you're
right.
changing it because you.
No, I'm
you
not
talked
changing
about
it.
the Suffering,
No, yes.
And you went to the suffering servant. Everybody heard you say the suffering
Yes,
servant.
and in the
So if
same
I could-
passage, the
but we're
resurrection is
talking
mentioned.
about, like you said, the resurrection, which is the same thing as Christ to rise from the dead on the third day. That's the same thing as the resurrection. Anybody that knows the Bible knows that. So now, just like the other gentleman spoke, what you're doing is you're confirming two things. You're confirming that the Creator which you're supposed to live. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth, right? Just how you speak. You
Okay,
don't
listen.
listen.
You're not.
Yeah,
Don't
I'm not. You're
interrupt
not.
me.
No,
The point is,
you're not
here's
on
the
here
two things.
to.
Let me
you're-
land my plane.
No, I'm gonna
Let
go
me
ahead.
land my-
All right. You're not on here to do a whole lecture. Like, you are here so we can interact and have a conversation about it. So unfortunately, you're just going on and mentioning all this other stuff. Wes Huff and Billy Carson, slow down. All I'm saying is the idea of like, oh, that it's mentioned upon the third day. I was saying that's not the foundation. Of course, the resurrection is the foundation, which is, but that does, the resurrection is void without the atoning work. That's what leads up to it. So it's death, burial, and resurrection, and you see that laid out in the suffering servant songs. Then Jesus is saying this is what happened. So I'm going to bring him back, but Meech, while he's calming down, do you have something you wanted to add before we go to these verses, or something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, as far if he thinks like the resurrection is not in the Old Testament, when you go and you read Isaiah 53, it talks about the suffering servant, and it says how he shall see his offspring. We know those aren't literal offspring; these are, you know, the believers in the faith that are born again.
Right.
But it says he shall see his offspring. Now, this is after the suffering servant dies. How shall he see his offspring if it talks about him dying?
Right.
That entails the resurrection itself, eternal life, because all the other righteous men in the Bible are said to be asleep in the graves. They're not said to be alive next to God, seeing things happen, in the world. And I would also like to add as well, the third day is very interesting. When you look at, I believe it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Proverbs 16 that says, "Thou shalt not suffer thy Holy One to see corruption." When you look at what happens to a body after the third day, the body goes into rigor mortis. So before rigor mortis set in, i.e., corruption, that's when Christ was risen. So I think there's an argument that can be made from there.
Yeah, and the big one, of course, is what Jesus did say himself as well. If you go to Matthew chapter 12, verse 40, I see IOCK. He knows. He already dropped it, and you're exactly right. Shout out to D. New, who came in, and also shout out to J3 Apologetics for the super chat. And don't worry, we're also going to get to your question there, Ralph P. Okay, so we're going to bring it up on the screen and look at what Jesus says in Matthew chapter 12. We're going to start in verse 38. So basically, the question that you're bringing is the same thing that the scribes and the Pharisees brought. It's the same situation. Now, this, of course, is prior to Jesus Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. And here's what he says. So I'm going to show it on the screen here. Let's take a look at this in Matthew chapter 12. If we could just start in verse 38, brother. Yeah, I can read it. You want to comment on it after I read it? Then certain of the scribes and of the Pharisees answered, saying, Master, we would see a sign from thee. But he answered and said unto them, An evil and adulterous generation seeks after a sign. There shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Then he goes on to say that the men of Nineveh are going to rise up and judge because they repented when the gospel was preached, but one who is greater than Jonah is here. And if you read the book of Jonah, it's very interesting, and there is a rabbinical strand that agrees with what I'm about to say, that Jonah actually died in the belly of the well. Now, there's debate. People say it sounds like he died because the sea is understood to be this place of chaos, and he's getting closer to it. He's going down into it. But if you read it, you could easily understand it as Jonah is saying this is sort of his last dying breath, and then he resurrects, which would be an interesting situation if that is what happened, because it's not God necessarily sustaining Jonah in the whale for 3 days. It's he goes in the well, he dies, he's resurrected, because remember, 1, 2, 3, third day, and then preaches the gospel. Jesus calls this the sign of Jonah. So that's the key thing there. That's the key thing. That's important. Go ahead.
What you're talking about, the rabbinic commentary on that, is that Mishnah or Midrash?
Yeah, but I don't have the references in front of me. But I actually was just reading about this in a book last week, and they had some of the sources that there was some within the rabbinical tradition that actually held that Jonah actually died. So, that he died and then he was resurrected again. Now, even if a person doesn't take it as that's what literally happened to Jonah, that's okay, because you still see it's the sign. It's as if he died. But the point is, that's where Jesus points to. And so everything in the scripture is not only just saying this exact thing will happen, then this thing will happen. There's typology, and there's shadows before substance. And this is a perfect example. I don't know if you want to comment on that before I show one other verse. I don't know if he's going to come back. He disappeared when I muted him, but I felt like I had no choice, because it's like it's like all the editorializing, and it's like, hold on, slow down. Do you want to comment on that?
He came in with the false premise, as when it says this, therefore this follows. So we're like, no, that's not the premise that we're working off of. So you were right to kind of jump in and kind of point that out. But speaking of rabbinic commentary, what's interesting is when Jesus says in verse 39, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. This is what all the Jews would do when a new teacher would be on the scene. That teacher, to prove he was a rabbi, would show signs. So they thought Jesus was the same sort. So that's why he's saying that this is actually evil and adulterous to do this. But yeah, I think a good source on that, because I think I read exactly what you're talking about. I can't remember the reference either. Adolf, what's his name? Alfred Edersheim.
Oh, okay.
No, Alfred Edersheim does a commentary on the Gospels, and he includes a lot of rabbinic literature in it. It's a really good read through. So I recommend that for anybody. But yeah.
And then another Old Testament text that you'll kind of see that is sometimes given is Hosea 6:2. Now, this is a foreshadowing of Jesus' resurrection after being crucified and buried for 3 days. It would be a symbolic...
Actually, it's about the Israelites. It says it right there.
Yeah, so this is a symbolic representation of God's restorative power. Because after
No, it's not. No, it's not. It gives you the time.
You have got to stop this. This is why you got muted before. We can talk, but you just cut off and start talking.
Let's talk. Okay, let's show some decorum. I apologize. So, all right. Let me defend what you say. Go ahead.
Yes, we understand Hosea's original context. We understand that. But the Messiah is the true Israel. He's retelling Israel's story. There's an element of what's sometimes called recapitulation. So it's a foreshadowing. We're not saying it literally says the Messiah will rise again on the third day. We wouldn't expect it to say something like that. Old Testament prophecy, even within the pages strictly of the Old Testament, does not always work that way. And so those are the two main places I would go to, and I think that is sufficient. But go ahead. You can respond to the Matthew 12 or the Hosea 6.
Okay, this is what anybody wants to know what I believe, is curious. I believe that we all should, of course, repent of our sins to God and to follow a plain thus saith the Creator Yah in the law and the prophets, written word for word. If anybody think that that's wrong, evil, or incorrect, tell us why and give us a better substitute. So according to Isaiah 8:20, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it's because there's no light in them. And Amos 3:7, surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. So let's go to Hosea, a prophet of Yah. And this is, you quoted a verse out of context, chapter 6, verse 2. Let's start a couple verses up to get the context. I'm sorry, you interrupted me and missed my speech.
Well, can I just ask real quick?
I'm reading the scriptures. Let the scriptures come out.
Listen, Eliah, you don't control. You got to get it out of your mind that you control the show. There is no us, first of all.
No, I just want to read the scripture. I don't want to get distracted.
Be quiet while I'm talking. What I'm saying is we're going to go back and forth, so you don't just stop with the monologue. You literally didn't answer the question because you did all this preface. Well, if I would plain matter of Yah and you have to show us. Who's the us? We're just talking to you. It's only one guy. First of all, you know what I'm saying? So there's not an us. Just answer the question. Why are you saying Hosea 6:2 could not be a foreshadowing of the resurrection?
Because I'm gonna read it right here.
I know, but why? Why can't it be a foreshadowing of the resurrection? Tell me why it can't be. It doesn't say that. Why can't it be?
Because it tells you what it is, and you're not considering what it is.
We
and you're not
know what
considering
it
the time
is.
frame.
We're saying, why can't it be
Yeah,
a
but what time
foreshadowing
is
of the
this being
resurrection?
done?
Wait,
Why?
can we
Yeah.
lay a definition
You're not
down? Can we lay a
considering the time. It has nothing to do.
Wait.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with 2,000 years ago, sir. Let me
Right,
read
right.
it.
No,
Eliab,
you're not
what-
answering the question. I'm asking you within the realm of what's possible and impossible. And here's why.
Because it tells you what it is, and it
No.
tells you the time frame.
Okay, so here we have somebody with an extremely limited understanding of how the Bible works. Let me show you what I mean by this. In the book of Isaiah itself, Eliah, you have times where the servant is sometimes explicitly identified as Israel. No question about that. There's other times where you have the servant who is dying for the sins of Israel, or who's described as faultless. Meanwhile, Israel in Isaiah, in those latter chapters, is described as being sick and guilty. So it can't be that it's the same identification. The servant's identification is contextually based because of where it's located within Isaiah. Now, here's my point by saying that. That shows you clearly that the Messiah, if he's to be properly understood as the suffering servant, which he should be, can be understood as proper or true Israel. Now, if that is the case, as I'm just showed you an example of why it can be, then when Israel is the one being spoke of in Hosea 6, which I know because that's exactly what I said, I'm asking you why it could not be the case that it's a foreshadowing of the resurrection of the Messiah. We know what the original context is. I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is, why couldn't what happened to Israel, if Israel is to have its personification in the true Messiah later on, why couldn't it be a foreshadowing of the Messiah? That's what I'm saying. Why couldn't it be?
Because if you read it, you'll get understanding. Can I read it?
Sure.
Now, this is in Hosea chapter 5. This is where you got to get the context from. Now, I could go further, but I'll go chapter 5, verse 14, just a couple verses. And it talks about this God. This is a totally different God than the son of Mary. Watch. For I, this is speaking of the God of the Israelites, the creator Yah, as in Isaiah, Jeremiah, Obadiah, for I will be unto Ephraim as a lion, and as a young lion to the house of Yahudah. I, even I, will tear and go away. I will take away, and none shall rescue him. Now, Christians do not teach that this is Jesus Christ. This is a different God here in verse 14. Watch this, verse 15.
Wait. We're talking about a different God.
Yeah. Did Jesus Christ destroy black people, the Israelites?
Well, we're not.
The Israelites.
We're not granting your premise, by the way.
Okay.
Yes. And hold on. The answer is yes. Jesus Christ is the Savior. Yes, Jesus. Okay, so you're not a Christian, and you're trying to tell Christians what we believe. Jesus is
because I know what Christians
No,
are.
you don't. You've got our beliefs wrong several times in this conversation. Jesus.
Okay. Well,
Jesus.
let me read
Jesus.
on.
No, I'm filling you in. You asked us a question, so you asked us. You said, "Is Jesus the one?" And then you answered your own question wrongly.
Jesus the one.
Stop in the middle of my.
Okay,
I'm answering.
Is Jesus?
Yo.
Okay, no problem. Is Jesus
No, it is a problem. I'm answering your question, so please let me answer your
Jesus?
question. Okay, Elia, this is your last chance. I usually don't. It's usually not like this with the guests. I don't know what your deal is. I read it in the live chat. Someone says this is the exact kind of thing you do all the time in Clubhouse. You're not going to get away with it here. I'm allowing you to go on. Don't ask us the question and then not allow us to respond to your question or tell us what we believe, because then it creates a massive hurdle in the conversation, because we're like, no, that's not correct. Yes, Jesus is the judge of Israel, because if you understand Christian belief, you understand that Jesus is Yahweh embodied. So he's not only the Savior, because just like in the Old Testament, God, Yahweh, is often presented as the one who strikes Israel and the one who heals Israel. This is in Isaiah 19, for example, where he even does this to Egypt. He strikes them and then heals them. This is a common motif. You, as someone who says you hold to the Old Testament, I am sorry, are so ignorant of the motifs and themes of the Old Testament. And you clearly don't understand Christian theology. So let the Christians tell you what the Christians believe instead of trying to tell us. And while you're getting the New Testament wrong, you're also getting the Old Testament wrong. So You have not answered the question of why in Hosea 6:2, if it is the case the Messiah can be understood as the embodiment of Israel, the personification of true Israel, as we demonstrated by the fact that the servant can have the identification of Israel, sinful, messed up Israel in some cases, and also the idea of a perfect, flawless, silent servant. This means he can be the embodiment of Israel. So why in Hosea 6:2 could it not be the case that this is a foreshadowing of the resurrection? All you keep doing is going back to the fact to say, well, that's not the original context of it. We know what Hosea 6:2 is about there, about an unrepentant Israel and Judah. What we're saying is, why could not what happens to Israel be foreshadowing of the resurrection of Messiah? It can be, but you have to let the Messiah interpret his own context. Okay. Answer it why it could not be.
Oh, okay, I'm telling you here, because verse 14 says, "For I will be unto Ephraim," right? So you're saying that's Jesus. So Jesus is going to be unto Ephraim as a lion and as a young lion to the house of Judah. And I, according to you, I'm saying this is Creator Yah, but you're saying this Jesus. So I, Jesus,
Same.
even I, will tear and go away. I, Jesus, will take away, and none shall rescue him. I, Jesus, will go and return to my place till they, meaning the house of Israel, till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face, Jesus' face. I'm saying that that's the Creator Yah. So we got two different gods here.
No, we don't.
All right, let's see if this is
No.
Hold on, you said that's Jesus. You said
Yes.
that's Jesus.
Yes, because Jesus is the creator. Okay, Meech, I'll let you respond. So I don't understand how you say you know what Christian doctrine is, and then you don't understand that Christians know Jesus is the creator. The New Testament says, through him were made all things. It's in John 1. It's in Colossians 1. So it's not different. It's not two different gods. And also, we don't believe in two different gods. And also, if you have the Messiah's resurrection foreshadowed in one place, we're not saying that everything that follows in the passage is about the Messiah. A perfect example is in Psalm 22. It's a messianic psalm, no doubt, and Jesus applies key elements to himself, but some apply more than others. And so, you're like saying, oh, we got to fill this all in. But nonetheless, it is the case that Yahweh often strikes, then heals. And Jesus is not some other God. He is the creator God. You're not understanding that. Meech.
Yeah. I think this whole argument's interesting. It's almost banking on the fact that he probably has never read the Gospels in their entirety. Because if you read various places, we just went to Matthew 12. He calls the Jews an evil and adulterous generation. Matthew 23 is just completely full of woes against the Pharisees. And then there's also a little something called the second advent, when Christ comes back and destroys all of his enemies. So we see the same characteristics of Christ as we see in the Old Testament as well. Just because we don't see Christ doing them all in one place doesn't mean anything. I could say right here, show me the name of God. If you can't, then God has no name. That's called isolation. You have to take the Bible in totality. That's why I definitely believe in total scripture, so.
Yeah, and you still haven't told us why it's impossible for it to be, because your answer didn't make sense because it was banking upon the idea that Jesus is not the creator. But if you knew Christian doctrine like you said you did, then you'd understand. And also, I don't know why you don't think Jesus can't judge and bring wrath. So just like Meech brought out in the second advent, have you read the book of Revelation? And even in Matthew 12, it said that the people of Nineveh are going to rise up and judge Israel. You see Jesus being directly associated with judgment there. So Jesus is the judge as well. You gotta really pay attention to what you're trying to critique, or else we can't take your argument seriously if you haven't looked at what the other side says. Have you never received an answer for this and paid attention to what people say? No, because I know people brought Hosea 6 to you. It's like you don't understand why we say that.
Said that Jesus
And vocab,
was the.
and what,
Yeah,
let me
go
add
ahead.
one more thing before you go. Let me add one more thing. I think what's important too is to establish a definition of resurrection, because if we don't have the same definition, we're going to be talking past each other.
Right.
I understand resurrection as raising from death to life, from not even non-existence to existence, but just life, from death to life. So when we read verse 2, we actually see the raising us up right here, that we may live. So I see that as a direct correlation to the resurrection.
Yeah, and this passage, we were not claiming Hosea 6:2 explicitly mentions the resurrection or the third of Jesus. It does not. We understand that. So it's not explicit. It doesn't explicitly say Messiah. It doesn't explicitly say Jesus, right? Whatever you want to say. But it does speak of restoration and revival that happens on the third day. So that's a prophetic reference to Messiah's resurrection. That's all we're saying. And 3 is an interesting number in the Bible. It's got a symbolism to it. Often represents completeness or a new beginning. And so this does apply to Jesus' death and resurrection on the third day. It fulfills this foreshadowing that is spoken of in Hosea. And what's interesting, let's see if you can answer this question, Eliah. What is the 2 days and then the third day? When was it that Yahweh struck Israel and then resurrected them or revived them after 3 days? When did that happen? Because I want to know when exactly that happened, because it's an interesting thing to be mentioned in this context, isn't it? And by the way, it does fit with what happened at the crucifixion, because Isaiah 50 tells us that, Isaiah 52:53, that it pleased the Son it pleased the Father to crush the Son. He's the one who smit him. So I want to know, Eliah, what's this about a 2-day revival and a 3-day being rised up? When was Israel struck down for 3 days? When did that ever happen? Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep. When was Israel struck down for 3 days?
Oh, so you can hear me. So I hope you could hear me earlier, right? You guys didn't let me read.
When was
the
Israel?
verses.
When was Israel struck down for 3 days?
Listen to.
When
okay,
was Israel struck
if you
down for
would've-
3 days?
If you would have let me.
When was
read
Israel
what
struck
you-
down for
Oh,
3 days?
okay.
I'm trying to
Good question,
tell
man.
you the answer, but you keep interrupting.
Stop telling me
and
about
people-
telling me and tell me. When was Israel struck
You
down for
wouldn't
3
let me
days?
read. If you let me read, I would
When-
have given you the answer, but you did not let me read.
When
It
was
tells you the time frame
when
in the reading, but you wouldn't let me do it
was
because you totally embarrassed yourself,
Israel
and everybody's going to listen to the.
Okay. All right. If you can't answer, then just say you can't answer, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
Living by the way, I see you on there, but we've got a super chat we've got to get to. So if you're able to hold on, and thanks for being patient through that insanity. I apologize, everybody, for that. What am I supposed to do with those, Meech?
Yeah, I mean, if they won't answer the question, just show them the door, because that's the most important thing. You see, he was going to try to go right back to verse 14 and 15 and try to say this is 2 different gods. He wasn't going to answer the question.
Yeah, because we had already been through that. And it's like, okay, then tell us the context of this when you're saying, because it's sort of a curious detail. Okay, so Ralph P's question from earlier wasn't Caleb a Gentile Kenite? And Ralph,
Ooh.
this is a great question for so many reasons. Yes, Caleb was a Gentile. Absolutely, this is the case. So we're gonna bring. It looks like Meech is going back to the resources there. So everybody, who is Caleb, right? Caleb is an important person because he's one of the 12 spies who didn't have cowardly fear about the situation with Israel as they were going into the Promised Land. So he's one of these spies in the Hebrew Bible, and he is like, hey, we can beat him. Now, here's the thing. He is described as a Kenizzite. He's described as a Kenizzite. Now, what's going to happen is later on he receives lands that are for the tribe of Judah, because the way it works is they would allot lands basically with the tribe you were around or hanging out with. That's a short version. But because you have to go somewhere. There's not like some specific, Gentile land that there is, right? And so here's what we've got. I see you, Nile Valley, too. I see you, too. We got someone ahead of you. But let's do this since we got a super chat for this. Meech, I saw you grabbing some resources about Caleb. Let's hear what you got to say.
So I was trying to find it. I got the Encyclopedia Judaica. I ended up looking at, I think it was an article on Kenizzite or stranger, and it gives like different rabbinic understandings of these things. Or it may have been, yeah, I think it was in there. But it was basically talking about how he was actually an Edomite, and that he, like you said, was given that plot of land because of his part in not the Exodus, but the wanderings, and how he and Joshua had stayed faithful. Notice nobody else in Judah is called, like their descendants are not called by the progenitor in the tribe of Judah. Like all of Caleb's descendants are called Calebites. There's a reason for that.
Wait. What's a verse example of that? Because you are right, and that's a good point, and sometimes I forget to bring it up. Do you know one of the examples? So, guys, understand what Meech was just saying, because that's a good point. I didn't want to pass by too quick. So, Ralph P., listen here. Let me put your question back on the screen here. So, yes, he's a Kenizzite, not really Kenite. In English, it's like Kenizzite, and this is interesting because this would make him an Edomite, by the way. People should
25:3.
And if you go back to Genesis 15, I'm not saying to do that, Meech. I'm going to bring up your scripture here in a second. Genesis 15:19 says the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites. They're spoken of there. And so you have this situation where that's who his ancestors are, and then his descendants get a certain name, and it doesn't make any sense unless there's something, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say ethnically distinct about him. So let's show exactly what we mean. Because, by the way, if someone doesn't understand why this question matters, it shows that you have strangers joined to the house of Israel, people who are not ethnic Israelites, joined to the house of Israel.
Of Judah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so let's look at what you got here, where they're called Calebites.
Okay, so actually, it reads a little bit different in which version is this?
Well, you keep on bringing up the KJV all night. It seems like
that's what I'm used to. I was raised KJV. This is what I'm used to.
Okay. All right. Well. It's interesting. Even if you go to your AI panel, even if you go to your AI panel on your phone and you literally type in Calebites, it's interesting what it says. Calebites were members of a clan in the Bible who descended from Caleb. It's fascinating. Okay, and the panel underneath it says they were a branch of the Edomite clan of Kenaz. Okay, go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, I got to say AI wrong too. So this is 1 Samuel 25:3. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail. The woman was discerning and beautiful, but the man was harsh and badly behaved. He was a Calebite. Why didn't it just say he was a Judite if that is the case? And I think that's interesting. And if I'm not mistaken as well, in the genealogy in 1 Chronicles chapter 2, you see all the genealogy from Judah, and then it says the sons of Caleb, but it doesn't say Caleb was anyone's son. It just has a whole separate section for Caleb. So I think that's interesting too. You guys can definitely go look at that.
So you have Calebite there, you guys see in 1 Samuel 25:3. And then, hold on, I think there's one other reference. You also got, is there another reference there?
30 and 14.
30 and 14. Okay. So twice you have this term Calebite. So that's a very important point as why it's designated that way. So, yes, he was a Kenizzite. And was there something else you need to bring up about that? I know you got to go in a little bit, and then maybe J3 can come back and we'll answer these questions because we got started a little bit late. It's my fault. And so I know you got to go, Meech. But did you want to mention something else about Caleb first? And so those are great verses you brought out, by the way.
Yeah. One second, baby.
It must be. They want you to read a bedtime story.
She comes and brings me all her problems when it's getting good, on the lives. So, but let's see some other good things on Caleb. Honestly, just trace his father, Jephunneh. Jephunneh is the if you look up Jephunneh, let me look this up.
Yeah, so we're going to show his lineage here. So this is important because it's we're not making up that he's a Kenizzite. You see it that it's directly mentioned. So there's Numbers 32:12. None except Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, and Joshua the son of Nun, for they will wholly follow the Lord. It's interesting because you don't see Joshua's sort of distinct lineage mentioned there, but you do with Caleb.
Right. You don't see the Nunite or however they would say it where Joshua's descended from. You only see that for people of other nations. You only see that in those cases, like Moabite, Ammonite. We know Moab and Ammon were children of Lot's daughters in Genesis.
Or Doeg the Edomite, one of Saul's men.
Right.
You see these examples.
Exactly.
It's specific. Are you guys seeing this? So it's interesting because you also have one of the faithful spies was somebody who was not an Israelite proper in that sense. Joshua 15:17. Othniel, the son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, captured it and gave him Aksha, his daughter, as a wife. And you also see Judges 1:13 as well.
So if he's the brother of Caleb, that means they both go back to, or they're both sons of Kenaz. The only time we see Kenaz mentioned up here, if you guys see it, it's all dealing with Esau, Esau basically.
Yeah.
Genesis 36 is literally a whole genealogy of Esau. That's why I have it highlighted in green.
Yep.
It's just lineage. But yeah, so verse 11, the sons of Eliphaz were Taman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. But Kenaz Eliphaz comes from, if we just start at verse 9, these are the generations.
It's one of Esau's sons.
Right. So this is part of his generations.
It's right there in verse 10. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Esau's wife. The son of Eliphaz were Kenaz. So you put 10 and 11 of Genesis 36. It's not really even a debatable point, in my opinion. It seems like you would have to have an agenda to want to remove it, because otherwise you got to explain this.
It's easy.
Right, and I like Jim Green got a new hat. It's BCV, book, chapter, verse. It's on his hat. It's real cool. So I would ask them if they're going to say there's another Kenaz, show me. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to pull a blue letter. Well, actually, 10 times out of 10.
Yeah. We got a IOCK with the verses as well, bringing up Joshua 15:13. And it is interesting the way it's kind of labeled in there. Now he gave to Caleb, the son of Jephthah, a portion among the sons of Judah. Can you bring up that real quick? That is a great verse. Joshua 15:13. Because guys, listen to the way it's going to, this is not the way you would describe somebody who is already of Judah. Look at this. Do you guys see that on the screen? Could you read that, brother, real quick? Because I know I read it, but I really want them to get this.
According to the commandment of the Lord to Joshua, he gave to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, a portion among the people of Judah, Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the father of Anak.
Excellent. Pastor Tanks has got a whole video on it. Check that out. And Debunking Hebrew Israelite says, this reminds me of my clubhouse days. All right, brother, I think you said you got to go about now. You want to give your socials one more time?
Yeah. So you guys can find me on YouTube, Minister space Meech. And then you guys can also find me on TikTok, Minister_Meech7. I'm very active on both of those platforms. You guys can reach out to me anytime. We can always break bread, look at things, whatever the case is, or Hebrew Israelites want to look at different things in a different type of setting. Guys, go ahead and, hit me up. Vocab, man, thanks again for the opportunity to come on. I definitely want to do this again just because I was so, short on time. And maybe we weren't clear enough in our dialogue as far as, how long I had and stuff like that. So I love doing stuff like this.
Yeah, you did great, man. I want more people to check you out, see what you got going on. And I just want to let everyone know, and I'm about to bring up the next person. Just, Meech is an example of a really amazing thing happening in 2025. And now it's not brand new. We've got these people who have been percolating for a while. When I first started out, there was a handful of us. You could count us on 2 hands who were doing this thing in a dedicated way. And nobody really hardly knew nothing. Now the information is being spread far and wide about the truth of these verses, how to debunk them, what the true gospel is. And it's very important because it's when there's only a handful of people, the Hebrew Israelites can target those ones, go after those ones, isolate those ones. When you've got whole swaths of social media who are specializing in this stuff and doing killer work, you're not going to be able to swat all the flies anymore, guys, if you want to put it that way.
Now we see them fleeing, the wicked flee and none pursueth.
That's right.
I got one more thing I want to pull out before I go. I wanted to pull this out earlier. So here's an interesting route I go, because I always love bringing up Romans 11. I'm not going to do a full breakdown, but I want to show you guys an interesting connection. So in Romans 10, verse 19 through, I believe, verse 20, it says, "But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses saith, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you." Verse 20. But Isaiah is very bold and saith, "I was found of them that sought me not. I was made manifest unto them that asked not after me." So where we find this at is very interesting. Isaiah 65, verse 1. So it says the exact same thing. "I am sought of them that asked not for me. I am found of them that sought me not." Notice the next part. "I said, behold me, unto a goy that was not called by my name." So you guys go ahead and bring this up. This is the intro to Romans 11. You know, Hebrew Israelites like to say that Romans 11 Gentiles are Northern Israelites or whatever type of Israelites. But the fact that this is mentioned before shows something very significant. The fact that this people was not called by God's name. And when you go and reference this to Deuteronomy 28 and 10, this is when Moses reads the law to Israel, and it says, "All the people of the earth shall see that you are called by the name of the Lord." So this is northern and southern kingdom. They're all called by God's name. So that's how you know that this people right here cannot be Israel. And going forward in Romans 11, that's the whole motif, the theme that he's bringing to the table.
Appreciate that, brother. Good work as usual. Good work as usual, man. You get the love, you get the applause. Have a beautiful night, brother.
All right, man. You too. Thanks for having me on, man.
All right. Yes, sir. God bless. No doubt.
Shalom. Shalom.
Yes, indeed. All right. Thank you for your patience. Living by the way, we got you live on the smoke room. Welcome. How you doing tonight?
Hallelujah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Floor is yours.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah. I praise you. You know, I just want to get on here and ask a question and see your thoughts on it. You know, I never had an opportunity to come and speak to you about this. I wasn't really fully sure of the topic, but what I find is a lot of brothers and sisters continue to call themselves Gentiles, and Ephesians chapter 2, if you would like to go there to follow where I'm at, in verse 11 and forward, he says in verse 11, this is the King James Version, but he says, "Wherefore remember that in being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who were called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands, that at that time you were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without God in the world." And he continues on. I just want to, that was the portion. I always think about that, and I think about how, what else would you be if you're not a Gentile besides a Christian? I'm saying I think Christian is someone who's anointed, right? An anointed one, right, of Christ. And so I don't know if this is following along with your topic tonight, and I don't want to stray off too far if so, but do you think that this is referring to people as coming into Israel, because now through the blood of Christ, you're now a part of, because he says in verse 12 that you were aliens from the commonwealth of Israel.
Right.
And you were strangers from the covenants of promise, and you had no hope and without God in the world. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, because it seems like for me, when I read this, that you become a part of Israel at that point in time because of the blood of Christ. And so I just want to get your thoughts upon that. Are you muted or am I muted? I can't hear you.
Well, one thing that's interesting about that verse in Ephesians chapter 2, I'm going to try to put it on the screen here if I can. I'm going to just give me a second here on that. Is that if it says one new man, I'm going to try to put this on the screen and see what this does here. I'll have to change around some of these screens. I got some stuff that's from a previous show, so give me a second to fix that. But it says one new man, right? So the question is, what's the one new man?
I'm sorry, where are you speaking on?
So in
The one new
Ephesians,
man part?
yeah, Ephesians 2, it says that the two became one new man, right?
Are you talking about verse 14?
Yeah. The idea of one,
Who he hath made both one?
yeah, the idea of one new man, right? And so, hold on, I don't know why it just disappeared off the screen. But the thing where it says one new man makes me hesitant to say that they're joining Israel proper. Now, I understand the church to be eschatological Israel, meaning Israel for these times in a typological way. But the one new man is not Israel in an old covenant sense. It's something new called the church. So, like, I don't hold that Jews or Israelites are joining Israel. You know what I mean? They're becoming part of something different, which is the church. That's the way I would look at it. So, I don't think somebody who's ethnically a Gentile, in my view, then should then go and call themselves Israel, unless they define it, because I do hold that the church is true Israel. But see, the idea of one new man to me, and I don't know why it's not showing up on the screen here. It's showing up on mine, but it's not showing up on there. I'm trying to bring the verse back up on the screen. I don't know why it's doing that. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, what would you say the one new man is?
Well, I mean, I see in verse 14 where he says, "For he is our peace, who had made both one." And I think that's what you're talking. I'm trying to see if it's maybe a different translation that you're saying one new man. What translation would you be using that would say that?
Well, I mean, I got the LSB in front of me, but it's into. Let me see the exact.
It's just I don't see the one new man. I'm trying to understand, but I mean, if it's verse 14 that you're speaking on, I guess that would be the. Maybe there's another verse in there that.
Well, even just that's sometimes used. It's in verse 15. You see verse 15, and I don't know why.
Okay.
I'm still working on getting it on the screen. I don't know what the problem is. It's
well,
on.
I got the Bible right here next to me too. I'm looking at it. So, I get what you're saying. I see. For to make in himself of twain one new man.
Yeah.
So making peace. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not against. So first of all, I'm not against anybody because I believe in one covenant. I believe that there's one covenant that we've had since the beginning.
Right.
And so I'm with that. I was just, I wanted to get your understanding on it because I always conversate this with people on this one right here. And the biggest factor for me is when I hear the word Gentile, when people say I'm still a Gentile and they tell me that, I tell them the Gentiles were always of the other nations. They weren't in covenant. So when I hear the word Gentiles, and maybe you can share something that can take me somewhere else, but when I hear somebody say they're a Gentile, that means that they're not in covenant with the Most High, right? And here we see that when you become in covenant, you get all these aspects that are in verse 12. You get the commonwealth of Israel, which means you become a citizen. Well, that word is citizenship, right? In verse 12, the word aliens, it says in the King James. I know it's kind of a strange word, but it says you become a part of the commonwealth, and that word in the Greek means citizenship according to the Strong Concordance. And you're no longer strangers of the covenants of promise, right? So there's these aspects that I'm just asking that you get connected with and I think when I'm reading the scripture, it's saying you're leaving that Gentile where you're a other nation and you become a part of Israel. Now, I wouldn't argue with you on the other aspects of who's, Israel today. I'm not talking about bloodline. I'm just saying in general, like for everybody who becomes covenant with the Most High through the blood of his son. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the idea is that you're becoming part of Israel. The organism that Christ said he'll build is his church. He didn't say I'll build Israel. And so since the church the church is composed of Jew and Gentile alike, so those Gentiles,
Right.
they're still Gentiles. So I do think it's proper for them to call themselves Gentiles because that's what they are. Now they might say I'm a spiritual Israelite or something like that.
Right.
But
I heard that, yeah.
Gentile doesn't mean to be out of covenant, though. I think that's another thing that might be, not exactly right. There's a time when there wasn't even a category of Jew and Gentile. Like Noah's not Jew. Noah's not Jew or Gentile, but he's clearly in covenant with God. So we can't say, well, Jew and Gentile equals out of covenant. And we just went over Caleb. Caleb's clearly in the covenant, and yet he's a Gentile.
Right.
So, like, I don't think we should make it synonymous to say, well, Gentile equals out of covenant, especially because then you have in the the book of Romans where Paul says, that you're a Jew it's not just about outwardly, you're a Jew if you're a Jew inwardly. And so,
Right.
And so he is saying that it's by covenant, but it's just it's sort of redefining what a Jew really is. But ultimately, it's still proper to say I'm a Gentile. It doesn't have to be like a dirty thing or a bad thing to say, yeah, I'm a Gentile, because like Galatians 3:28, there's neither Jew nor Gentile. Well, they're still Jews and Gentiles. It's just saying that there's equality at the foot of the cross because they're all one. They're still actually Gentiles.
And I believe that. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I do believe in the, everybody being one through the blood of Christ. You know what I'm saying? So I'm with you on that. When I look at verse 11, it sounds like he's speaking as in, he says that you being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, this is what you were, right? And so I see a transformation happening from them being Gentiles. And I guess that's why I was coming to ask you your thoughts. I just want to get your understanding on it. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no quarrel about it. It was just more about that, just to see what you think about that part.
Well, have you seen the verse that says, therefore it's not circumcision that matters, but being a new creation? So that shows really what it's about is about being born again. For example, remember in John 3, you have Jesus and Nicodemus, right? Well, there, he says, hey, no one's going to see the kingdom of God unless they're born again. So it's he doesn't say, unless they become a Jew or something like that. They got to be born again. So even Jews have to be born again. And so
I agree.
And so that's really what it's about. It's about new creation. And that includes Jews. They have to be born again in Christ. But I think that's an interesting conversation. I'm going to move on to the next guy. I'm glad you stopped by today.
No. Hey, I appreciate you, allowing me to come on and talk to you about this just to get your understanding, like I said, you know what I mean? So, all right, my brother. Well, next time you get on, I'll try to jump on if there's something that I can ask a question towards, you know what I'm saying?
All right, yeah, sure, no doubt. I appreciate that. All right, Nile Valley Hebrew. Yes, sir. Have a beautiful day living by the way.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you. What's going on?
What's going on with you? You can see me now, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm listening.
PC, vocab. I wanted to ask you something. But first, I wanted to ask you something about the Caleb situation you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Are you saying that there is only one Caleb in the scriptures?
We weren't saying that, no, because.
Okay, if you wasn't saying that, I think that should have been specified when that question was posed to you about Caleb's nationality or tribal affiliation.
Well, I appreciate your perspective on that, but I don't think we had to do that because he specifically asked, if you looked at the question, he asked about his designation, so we knew who he was talking about. He says, wasn't Caleb a Gentile Kenite? Now it's Kenizzite, but we knew exactly which Caleb he was referring to.
Right, but
what's the other Caleb what's the other Caleb that you're talking about here?
Because we're talking about a Caleb that was in the lineage of Judah. There's a Caleb that was in the lineage of Judah. You familiar with that, right?
Well, I want to find out if we're talking about the same Caleb or a different Caleb. So what verse do you want me to go to take a look?
Let Let me get it right here for you.
And why do you think we needed to specify, though, when he said Caleb the Kenizzite? Why would we need to specify?
Because,
He already specified with his question.
yeah, because most people reference Caleb thinking they'll see Caleb in two different places, and they'll confuse one Caleb, the Kenizzite, with the other Caleb that is of the lineage of Judah. And he's actually listed in the lineage of Judah. And if you go to just type in the two Calebs, and I'm going to just say an overview here. The Bible mentions two people named Caleb.
Okay.
One from the tribe of Judah.
But can you give me the verse you're referring? Hold on. Can you give me the verse you're referring to, though? What book it is, maybe?
Okay. Numbers. You got the book of Numbers 13:6.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's the same one. Because look at his dad.
That's right. Hold on.
Yeah.
Then you have the Caleb of First Chronicles, chapter 2.
All right. We got First Chronicles chapter 2. Which verse you want to go to there?
Go to 3.
All right.
Now this is a different Caleb.
Mm-hmm.
See, these are two different Calebs. Now,
hold on. First Chronicles 2:3.
First Chronicles 2.
I must be. Am I missing something? Because First Chronicles 2:3 doesn't have a Caleb.
No, this is the great grandson of Judah through Tamar. That's in First Chronicles.
I know, but where are you saying Caleb is in First Chronicles?
No, I'm mentioning the second. I'm just mentioning the descendancy.
I know, but
just mentioning the descendancy.
Where
I'm gonna
is
give you more? I'm gonna be more precise so you can get right to the action with me. Okay. Get right to the action with me. Let me be more precise with you, Vocab.
Yes.
All right. You can get right to the action with me. Okay. Here we go. Now, when you go to Numbers 32, that's the Kenizzite. Jephunneh, we know who that is. They are listed as one of the tribes. Now, when you go to, let's see, let me get this for you, because he's listed he's listed as one of the in the lineage of Judah.
Honestly, I mean, I know you wanted to call in about this. I was hoping you would have.
No, that's not what I wanted to call in about. I wanted to call in about Caleb. I just thought that was interesting.
No, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, if you wanted to call in about this, and you're saying you needed to correct people, I was hoping you'd have the verse ready.
No, I wasn't correct. I never corrected you. I asked you a question.
No, but you're saying there's two Calebs, and I'm just asking. I've been trying to look for the other Caleb you're talking about.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure it's not the same one. I could be overlooking something. But so far, all the Calebs you've shown me are the Caleb we were talking about.
All right, Caleb. Or Jephunneh, right? Where's Jephunneh from? According to the book of Numbers 13. He's from the tribe of Judah, right?
Where are you talking about?
The book of Numbers, verse 13.
Okay, this is the same. This is the same Caleb. This is the same Caleb again.
Jephunneh, right? He's from the tribe of Judah, right?
No, that's not what that's saying. It's not saying his father is from the tribe of Judah.
No. Jake of Judah. Go to Numbers 13, chapter 13, and look at verse 6 for me.
Yeah, so I know what you're talking about. It's on the screen. From the tribe of Judah. So here's what's going on here.
Exactly.
These are the spies who were sent out into the land.
Yes, we know that. Yes, I know that.
Yeah, so this is the same Caleb, because look who his father is, the son of Jephunneh. So Caleb is being described as coming out of Judah. We already identified that's because you have to be put into one of the 12 tribes if you're a stranger, because the land is given to you of that particular tribe. Okay. But this man has the same name of the father who Caleb the Kenizzite has, because his father is a Kenizzite. So he's not from the tribe of Judah in the traditional sense. That's why his descendants are called Calebites.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. I just wanted to clear that up Yeah, because he's one of the 12 spies sent by Moses into Canaan.
Correct. You are
Land.
yes, you are correct.
They explored the Negev and the surrounding areas. He was given a portion of the land.
Yes.
Not familiar with all that. And Caleb as a Kenizzite. You see that in the Numbers. You can see that in
Yes.
Yeah, all that. But let me get to my original question.
Ooh, you gotta okay. Say to be quick because that ate up a lot of time, and I have I got two guests behind you. I got Jordy and Israel Bound. Okay. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you this. Now in Isaiah 11:11, right? Isaiah 11:11. We'll start at 10 through 12.
Okay, what's on the screen?
10 through 12. Now, let's talk about the root of Jesse. We know that's Christ, right?
Amen.
All right. Now, start at 10. This will be the day that the nations will seek the root of Jesse, who will stand as a standard for the people, and his resting place will be glorious. Then it will be in that day that the Lord will again acquire the second time with his hand the remnant of his people who will remain from Syria, Egypt, Pathros, Ethiopia, Elam, Shinar, Hamath, and from the coastlands of the sea. And he will lift up a standard for the nations and assemble the banished ones of Israel and will gather the scattered of Judah. All right. That hasn't happened yet. Would you agree?
It depends how we're going to interpret this. I believe, here's the way I would put it. It's happening right now. That's the way I would put it. Is it complete? No.
Right, okay.
So this is like describing the Messiah's peaceful kingdom. And it's this little messianic poem. And it's basically painting the Messiah as the ideal ruler. And it shows he's going to arise from the Davidic family. And it focuses on his leadership and how peace is going to be what marks his kingdom. And so within that, because you have Jesse and roots, just like you agree, this is clearly the Messiah. And you also see that in you see it in 1 and you see it in 10. So it's like what's called an inclusio. And so in that day, it's like, when is that happening? Well, it seems like this is the time of the Messiah. So I would say it begins with the ministry of Jesus, but it's not completed until the second coming.
Okay. All right. So who's right now, and let me read 12 before I conclude with this, then give and then ask you, get to the meat and potatoes. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. If you say that's happening now, where can we see Christ gathering the outcasts of Israel and the dispersed from the four corners of the earth? Where can we see that happening now?
Everywhere people were getting saved.
So he gathering. Christ is doing that himself.
Well, through his body, yes. He's working through his church. It is his church. Because notice what it says. The nations will seek the root of Jesse. So this is all people.
This, in the context, is talking about Israel, am I right? Not all people.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. His people are from all over, and they are from these places. Because his people are the new Israel. It doesn't have to do with regathering blood descendants of Israel. This is people from all over who are the new Israel, which would include people who may be descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But if you notice, it's very nations sounding. You know, the nations will seek him. They're going to want to know the new king. And it's interesting because nations renders a Hebrew noun that is used in the plural for people other than Israelites. They're seeking. They're trying to find. They're trying to seek out and gather, want to know more about, obtain information about. Right? They're going to listen to him. They're going to consult him.
Vocab, you said you want a little smoke. I'm gonna give you some a little bit. I'm gonna give you a little bit.
All right.
Now you know it's talking about his people. It's talking about Christ. His people are not everybody. Jesse's people are not everybody. This is talking about the Israelites. It's talking about those from the islands of the seas. And it should come to pass. The Lord should set a second time to recover the remnant of his people. Those are the Israelites.
Okay, let's do that. So you're saying the Messiah's people, You're saying the Messiah's people are Israelites. During Jesus' lifetime, he disproved that, because during his lifetime, Jesus Christ was talking to sons of Abraham, was he not? And he calls them of their father, the devil. So they're not his people. He says, you don't hear my voice because you're not my sheep. My sheep hear my voice. So Israelites is not synonymous. So what that means is, though, return and smoke, what that means is Israelites who are not Messiah's people are not his people, regardless of they're Israelites or not.
No, Vocab. That doesn't mean they're not Israelites, because he said they're their father.
Oh, no. Hold on, but they're not his people. What
I'm saying is his kinsmen.
But now you're changing it.
That's what I mean.
No. All his ken are not his people. They're brothers according to the flesh. Right. So what I'm saying is his people are those who follow him. They're not. There's not people.
I hear what you're saying.
Right. Well, don't you agree?
I hear what you're saying. I hear this. But when it says, I agree in that sense. But when I'm saying his people, I think you know what sense I'm talking about. I'm talking about his kinsmen according to the flesh, like Paul said. That's why Christ said, they say those who say they are Jews but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. He's not talking about they're not descendant of blood Israelites. He's saying they just do the work of Satan. So when I'm talking about here, when the Lord says, I will gather my people in that day through the root of Jesse, the Lord's people is Israel. And he's going to use that root of Jesse, which is Christ, to do that. This is not Christ speaking here. This is the Lord saying he shall set his hand again and gather his people. Who are the Lord's people here in Isaiah? These are Israelites. This is the Lord's people that is referred to here in Isaiah. He's going to use Christ to do that. Now, here we go. And you said it's happening. It's not happening yet because Christ hasn't come back.
Okay.
This will be, and it says this, and what the righteous shall be the girdle of his lion, and faithful the girdle of his reins. That's Christ. And the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. That's not happening. And the leper shall lay down with the kid. That's not happening. And the calf of the young lion and the faulter together, and the little child shall lead them. That's not happening. It's not happening at all until Christ come back. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the seas. That's not happening. Now let's get to the root of it.
Well, no.
What were those Israelites?
Hold on. We don't want to go on forever because we want to make sure
I'm going to close out. I just got to ask you this question, Vocab.
But you see, they got to be people who seek after him. They have to be people who seek after him. And wicked Israelites aren't seeking after him. In fact, they're persecuting him. So it's not just Israelites.
I get what you're saying. The Most High said, in the place where I said they were not my people, they will be called my people.
And that refers to Gentiles in the New Testament.
No, that refers to Israelites.
That's exactly
that's coming back to the faith.
No, well, that's exactly how Paul uses it, to refer to Gentiles.
No. But anyway,
but hold on, brother. You asked a number of questions. I think we had a good conversation, but I got two other people behind you, so I'm gonna have to.
I got one more question. I was about to ask you, and you start bringing out the most scriptures.
Of course, because I'm responding to what you're saying.
Vocab is quick. It's easy. It's easy.
Live chat. Give me a 1 if you want me to keep on going with the gentleman.
I'm not about to play no live chat. Give you 1. You want to answer the question?
Give me
Vocab. I'm an Israelite. You said you want to smoke.
Give me okay. I'll tell you what. You can hold on and let me deal with the other two guys because it's not fair to put them on hold forever when you've asked. You're trying
to.
It's
a 30-second. It's a 10-second question, brother. I ain't got to be here for you to answer it. It's a 10-second question. You'll see how quick it is.
All right, you got 10 seconds.
All right. What were the Israel in the New Testament times, in the time of Christ? What were the scattered Israelites that were scattered into the four corners of the earth? What were they called at the time Christ was ministering on earth? Were they called Jews, or would have been known as something else? What would they have been called at that time?
All right, that was the 10 seconds. The answer is they were called Israelites like they always were, or Jews, because these essentially are synonymous terms. And you can see by the time of the New Testament how Jews can be a stand-in for all peoples who are descendant from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's why Jesus himself is described as the King of the Jews for that very reason. So now we've got Jordy, and then we've also got Israel Bound. So just give me a second, and we're going to put you guys on. Jordy, you are live in the smoke room. Let's hear what you got to say,
Yo,
my man, Jordy.
Maybe.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'll change the name on the screen while you're talking. Go ahead, brother.
Cool. All right, Vocab. Can we go to so let me ask you this real quick. So in the New Testament, when Yahushua or Jesus went in as his custom was to read the law, right, or to keep the Sabbath day, and they brought him a book, and it says that he opened the book and he went to Isaiah.
Correct.
You familiar with that passage?
Yeah, this is in Luke chapter
Okay.
4. He opens to Isaiah 61. Yes.
Okay. When he read that, was that the Septuagint or was that the Hebrew?
I would be shocked if it was the Septuagint. It seems like it.
It's the Septuagint. So I'll just give you the answer. It's the Septuagint.
How do you
According to
know?
the Septuagint.
Hold on. How do you know it was the Septuagint?
Because when you look at what he says in the Greek, because it's written in Greek, right? When you look at what he
Well,
says,
Luke 4 is in
and
the
then when
Greek.
you look at, that's
Luke
what I'm
4
saying.
Yeah, so Luke 4 is in the Greek, but that doesn't mean what Jesus read was in the Greek.
How do you know that?
Mainly because Jews who are of the synagogue leading variety are rabbis who would have to know Hebrew. And as a general
Okay,
rule,
so
they're not going to be open up the Torah
Let's just say
scroll.
time then.
Hold on, they're
Let's
not
just
going to
say
be.
time then.
Hold on, let me say. They're not going to open up a Torah scroll to a Greek manuscript or a Greek translation, most likely, from what I know. That's why I said I'd be shocked. So it's not absolutely impossible, but I think all the evidence indicates he would have been reading out of Hebrew. Now, Luke may very well be referring to the Septuagint because the gospel writers tend to refer to the Greek manuscripts of the Old Testament. But that doesn't mean that's what Jesus
Okay,
originally
so
read. You
is
see
it
what I'm
okay?
saying?
Is it okay? All right. Was Jesus brought up in Alexandria in Egypt?
Was he brought up in Alexandria? And Jesus spent some time in Egypt,
With
but
the
he wasn't.
Alexandrian Jews? Was he brought up with the Alexandrian Jews in Egypt, bro?
Jesus is never described as an Alexandrian Jew. Hey, chill out
That's
with the.
okay.
Hey, Jordy. I'm talking to you regular. Just chill out with the no need to get all, just chill out. I do not think Jesus should be properly described as an Alexandrian Jew just because he spent some time in Egypt when he was little. So no, I would not look at him that way.
Okay, is it more likely than not that when he was in Egypt that he was given the Greek scriptures?
Given the Greek scriptures, what do you mean by that?
Vocab, do you accept the LXX? Yes or no?
Wait, hold on. I asked you to define your terms.
Let's just get to the point.
No,
Do you
Jordy,
accept the
Jordy.
LXX? Yes or no?
Smoke room, I give smoke back, my friend. So if you say something imprecise, I'm asking you to clarify it. What do you mean Jesus was given the Greek scriptures? What did you mean by that in Egypt? We don't even know if Jesus was of reading age when he was in Egypt. My money is he probably wasn't, because when the wise men are describing to come to the house in Nazareth, he's described as a small child. So he may not have been. Now, he could have been, but it would have been in very beginning stages. And I doubt his parents are teaching him Greek before they teach him Hebrew.
I mean, he was brought up in Egypt for about 11 years of his life.
Where did you get that from?
From the text, from the Bible.
Okay, can
He
you show
didn't
me?
return back to Jerusalem. He didn't return the only text that we got is that when he was circumcised, his mother took him to the temple to be circumcised, right? Then after that, we see that he's in the temple at 12 years old. But it says that Joseph took him. This is the problem, though, Cam.
No,
I don't
hold
want to
on.
waste too much time
Jordy.
because there's a point. There's a point that I want to get to.
No, the problem is you're not.
So let's.
You're
How
not,
about this? I concede. I concede.
Hold on.
I concede.
Concede what?
I concede.
Concede
I
what?
concede. Let's just say Jesus didn't deal with the Septuagint. Is that your argument?
No, that's not my argument. So let me
Okay.
let me
Did
tell
he
you,
deal with it?
Jordy. There's a lot you said that was imprecise. First of all, the average understanding of a range of how long Jesus would have spent in Egypt is usually given 1 to 8 years. 11 years is an overestimation. So if it was obviously the 8 years, then he would have been within reading range. But I don't think Jesus would have to be in Egypt to receive knowledge of the Septuagint. I hold that Jesus absolutely did speak Greek, primarily because of his conversation there in John 18 with Pilate. There doesn't seem to be an interpreter present, and yet he's conversing with Pilate. And so that means he would have to be speaking in Greek as the lingua franca of that area. There's other reasons why I believe he spoke Greek. So I don't hold that he didn't. Also, I wouldn't hold that he'd be ignorant of the Septuagint. However, Jesus as a Jew in Israel is not going to be. He's not a Hellenized Jew. He doesn't need to rely on the Septuagint. He's going to go to the Hebrew. And hold on, Jordy, Jordy, I got one more point to make on this. Jesus made arguments from Hebrew grammar, not from Greek grammar. Remember when he talks about how God is the God of the living, and he refers to about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? That point is made from Hebrew grammar, not from Greek grammar. That means he's relying upon his first place to look when he refers to the scriptures as Tanakh in Hebrew. Do you understand the argument that I just made there? His argument about Abraham.
I understand.
Right. So do you? So I don't reject the Septuagint. I'm just saying that I wouldn't. I'm not. It depends what you mean by reject. If you mean, I understand it's a translation and it's very important, but that doesn't mean that's what Jesus is primarily relying upon.
Clearly, all the Jews kept the Feast of Dedication, which is the Feast of Hanukkah.
Well, so religious Jews, in order for them to
keep that. Listen, Vocab, if you're gonna nitpick like that, I'm never gonna be able to actually get to the meat and the potatoes.
Well, let me tell you something, Jordy. That's cool. I am gonna nitpick a little bit because I appreciate your zeal, but you seem to be rather imprecise. That's why with the second I asked you, what do you mean Jesus was given the Greek scriptures, you immediately ran to some other question.
Well, you said that
you're not a very precise speaker.
And then number two, he kept the Feast of Dedication. That's all the evidence that we need. And the early church had the Greek Septuagint. So that's all the evidence that we need, bro. So let's just stop playing games. Now let me ask you the question.
No.
You said you accept
all the evidence we need of what?
So now let me move on to my question. Since you accept the LXX, let me go to my question.
You need to be a more precise speaker.
Let's stop wasting time, man. Let's stop wasting time.
Okay, then let's get to what do you mean?
All right. So
Jordy, I'm asking you questions back. What do you mean it's all the evidence we need? All the evidence we need of what? Jordy, you said he kept the Feast of Dedication and spoke Greek. That's all the evidence we need. All the evidence we need of
and
what?
The early church and the early.
I know, but all the evidence we need of what?
That he read the Septuagint.
Okay, I could grant you that Jesus could read the Septuagint, but I don't grant when they hand him a Torah scroll, he's reading in Greek in a Jewish synagogue in Israel.
I'm basing that off of Luke. That's all I did. If I misspoke,
brother,
then I'm sorry. I concede. I don't want to argue about this.
I thought that's why you called.
I want to get to the point. I just wanted to ask. I just brought up a few examples of the Greek Septuagint being quoted in the New Testament.
Oh, you got that.
Of him being brought up in Egypt.
Jordy, you got that.
Alexandrian Jews. Okay. So
Jordy,
now let me get to my question.
I'm not going to argue with you about the Greek Septuagint being quoted in the New Testament.
Stop the conversation right there, and let me ask you my question.
I thought, my goodness, there's more.
When dealing with the Septuagint, can we please go to Esther chapter 9 and verse 24, and can we read that in the Septuagint? Is that okay with you?
Yes, but I am super confused. Well, you did all that preface if that's not even your main argument. What in the world is your argument then, Jordy?
Let's just call it that. It's a preface as a reason, because other people who are listening to this, they don't deal with Septuagint. They just deal with Masoretic text.
Well, I mean, maybe some of the people listening, but if you watch the
some people are KJV only. They're like KJV only, KJV.
Right,
only.
but if you listen, hold on, brother.
To say that.
Can I show you something? From earlier in the show? I'm going to show you something from earlier in the show. Are you able to see this on your screen, brother?
As long as you deal with my question.
Hold on, Jordy, you don't get to make preconditions about me showing something. My goodness. Do you see on the screen the comment there?
No, I don't. It's too small. I'm on my phone. Can you read it?
It says, it's on the screen so everyone can see it. This is from David earlier in the program. I'm not saying that you should have known this was there, but I'm making the point that the audience is not what you're saying they are. The language of the LXX there is identical to Achior in Judith 14:10. Meaning someone in the audience earlier literally brought up a Septuagint rendering of something in relationship to a question we were looking at in Isaiah 14.
Great, that's one person. Great.
Oh,
One
okay.
person.
Okay.
Great.
First of all, we dealt with the comment extensively in the discussion. So it's not just one person because then we interacted with it. So you're saying it's one person. It's one, but you acted like no one knows. I'm just saying it's not that way. In fact, a lot of seminary graduates or whatnot, they go to the Septuagint first because they maybe have better facility with Greek than Hebrew, and so they'll go there. We're not anti-Septuagint. All we're saying, I think it's silly of you to think that they're handing Jesus a Greek Tanakh when he goes to a Hebrew synagogue in Israel. I think that's silly.
Well, he was in Galilee. In Galilee, it's called Galilee of the Gentiles.
Yeah, I know that.
So that's another cut on you. That's another cut on you because it says Zebulun and Naphtali are Gentiles.
It doesn't prove
so
it.
We can move past that because you got.
Wait.
So
hold on,
to Esther 9,
Jordy. You think that
we're never going to get to it? We're never going to get to what I want to bring out.
You think
You're
that
deal
proves
with
it?
everything else other than Esther 9. This is what we're about to do for the next 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Jordy, whose show do you think this is? Why are you telling me what we're going to do for the? Why are you telling me what we're going to do for the next 5 minutes? Excuse me, sir. What are you on, bro?
Because this is what you're about to do. Now you're about to go into the Gentile dialogue about Isaiah 9.
No, well, I'm challenging you. Here's what we're going to do for the next 5 minutes. What? Says who, Jordy?
Because we've already been off on the diatribe. I just want to get to the Esther 9.
It's not my fault you started the show with Luke 4 and then told me later that's not even your point. That's you, bro. You need to work on your presentation.
I apologize then. I'm sorry, Vocab. Like I said, I brought that out just as an example as to show people why it's important for us to look at the Greek Old Testament just the same as the Hebrew. Can you please forgive me?
I 100% agree. If that's your main point, I 100% agree with you. We don't even disagree then.
Okay, can you forgive me?
Sure, go ahead.
To run your show. I just want to get to the point.
Okay,
so
I'm
The
listening.
point is, the reason why I'm here is I have two things that I would like to discuss in the Greek scriptures. The first topic is Esther 9 in verse 24. And if you could read that or show that to the audience. Esther 9 and 24.
It's going to take me a second to bring this up on the screen. You're saying Esther 9 what? So I'm hoping you could...
Verse 24. You got logos?
Yeah, I got logos, yeah.
Okay, if you could pull it up, maybe like side by side, maybe, so that they can see. I don't know. If you got logos, I'm just asking.
What verse did you say?
Esther 9 and 24. Because I know people at home, they got their Bibles in their hands. So they're reading the English translation of the Masoretic.
All right. So I got the English translation of the Septuagint. I'm gonna click over. We're gonna take a look at it and see
Thank you
what.
for your patience, Vocab. I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there, right? Okay, let me see here. Where do I need to go? I need to go right here, and then you click this, bada boom, bada bing. Okay, there we go. It's on the screen.
Okay, like I said, I'm on my phone, so I can't really see that small.
Well, which verse I'll read it for you. What verse do you want me to
verse 24, please.
Verse 24, showing how Ammon, the son of Amadathes, the Macedonian, fought against them, how he made a decree and cast lots to destroy them utterly.
So my question is why is Haman called a Macedonian in Esther 9?
Off the top, I don't know why he's called a Macedonian.
Okay. You can't put two and two together?
No, I'm trying to get this verse on the screen and change the name because it says Nile Valley Hebrew. But go ahead, I'm listening. What's your theory there?
It's not a theory. I'm just going to state the fact.
Okay.
That according to the Septuagint, he's a Macedonian, correct?
Well, Macedonian, I think, is what you're saying, but...
Macedonian, semantics. Is he a Macedonian?
He's described in Esther 9:24 in the Septuagint rendering as a Macedonian. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Are you familiar with the Apocrypha?
Not as familiar as I am with the Bible, but I've read a lot of the Apocrypha.
Okay. If you could, please, can you go to Esther chapter 16 and verse 10 in the Apocrypha now?
Esther 16:10. Okay, you're dragging me all over. I'm hoping we can get to the point here.
Well, I mean, you don't know why he's called a Macedonian.
I guess I want
They
to
could have
know.
called him any other. They could have called him anything else, but they said he's a Macedonian.
Well, that's a area that you'd be from. So he's described as an Amalekite. So he's an Amalekite.
Where's he
It's an
from?
Amalekite.
Where's he from?
So
though?
he hypothetically, if you wanted to put it together, he could be an Amalekite from Macedonia. That's not impossible.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, remember,
So,
I'm not. I don't have.
Esther
I don't have
16:10.
Septuagint primacy. Esther, what? What verse did you say?
16, verse 10.
Is it gonna go? All right, I'm trying to get to Esther. Oh, all right. Esther 16:10. Man, I wish you would just have these ready so we could look because
I could read it.
Yeah,
I
go
could read
ahead.
it, but
I'll put it on. I'm putting it on the
Okay.
screen, but go ahead if you could read it while I'm getting there, please.
Okay, then I'll do that then.
Thank you.
So this is the book of Esther, chapter 16 and verse 10. It says, "For Haman the Macedonian." So here we see another time he's called a Macedonian over and over again in
Okay.
the Bible. "The son of Amadatha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us, had so far forth obtained the very favor that we showed toward every nation, as that he was called our father, and was continually honored of all men, as the next person unto the king. But he, not bearing his great dignity, went about to deprive us of our kingdom and life, having," verse 13, "having by manifold and cunning deceits sought of us the destruction, as well of Mordecai, who saved our life, and continually procured our good, as also of blameless Esther, partaker of our kingdom with their whole nation. For by these means he thought, finding us destitute of friends, to have translated the kingdom of the Persians to the Macedonians." So this is about 100 years before the birth of Alexander. Why is Haman trying to usurp the throne of the Persians and give it to his family that lives in Macedon?
I don't hold that he did. So I don't hold the Apocryphals canonical, and these additions to Esther are written after the book of Esther was already written, and so it's extremely problematic. So I don't hold that he did. The question would be, why, according to these additions in Esther, do they have that? But there's a lot of problems there because it says he's of Persian blood, but the Bible itself says what? It says he's an
No, it
Amalekite.
says he's a stranger. It says he's the stranger of Persian blood. So he's not Persian blood. That's what the king is saying.
Hold on,
The
hold
king
on.
is saying,
Let's look at
"There's a
16:10.
stranger." The
Hold
king
on, it
is
says-
saying that
hold
there's
on,
a
hold
stranger.
on.
He's not from our nation.
Let's read.
And
Hold
this
on.
person who's a
Slow down,
stranger,
Jordy. We're going to
who's
read
an
it.
Amalekite.
It's like you didn't read
go
it.
ahead.
Look at what's on the screen. For Haman,
I just read it.
but you're saying he's not of Persian blood according to this.
I'm
But
looking at it in my Bible. I got it right
Okay,
here. It
well-
says a stranger from the Persian blood. He's a stranger from the Persian blood.
No, see, the reading comprehension is a real issue, bro. He's a stranger. Now it's telling you what kind of stranger he is. And it's on the screen, an alien in very truth from the Persian blood. So according to this addition to Esther you drug out from the Apocrypha, he's described as being Persian blood. It's not saying he's estranged or a stranger away from the Persian
That
blood.
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense
brother.
because he's an Amalekite. You're right.
No, you're twisting it like you do all the other scriptures. In
Bro,
verse 10, it
you're
says that
reading,
hold on.
Jordy, your reading
Let's slow
comprehension
down.
is a real problem because you thought it was saying
let's slow
he's
down.
not a Persian. Let me ask you something. Why in this would they say, hey, he's not a Persian? Wouldn't they just want to tell you what he is so you don't understand what you're
That's
reading?
what he just said. He
No,
said,
it's saying an alien
if I say-
from.
so if I-
Do you
if I say-
understand
if I-
from
if I say I'm
the
distant-
preposition
if I
from?
if I say I'm distant from vocab, I'm distant from you.
Oh,
That doesn't
my
mean that
gosh.
me and you are the same, bro. So the point is
That's
that
not
you
what
don't-
it
you're not making
says.
sense. You're not making sense right now, and
That's not
you're hiding the
what-
truth. Well,
Jordy,
how about this? How about we
Jordy,
just- how about we
Jordy,
throw
Jordy,
away-
Jordy,
let's
Jordy,
just
Jordy,
throw
Jordy,
away-
Jordy. Hold on, Jordy, slow down. You're accusing me now of nefarious intention. I find a lot of what you said to be honest.
Yeah, you
Frank,
are.
please slow down and let me respond. I find a lot of what you're saying to be utterly ridiculous. I don't even understand what the hell your argument is. So how can I be hiding this secret true argument you have when I don't even understand what you've been saying most of the time? Because you
Okay,
started.
let me
Let
make
me
it clear.
finish.
Let me
Let
make
me
it
finish my
abundantly clear.
diatribe. You started way over here and then ended up way over here, and you think you're doing something secret. First of all, you made a mistake with
I'm
Septuagint
not.
primacy.
I'm being forthfront. I'm
and
being honest about
and
what
now
I'm saying.
now you think you've got something because you're reading these additions to Esther, and my friend, you don't even understand what they said. It's saying he's from
Right.
the
So let's just
Persian
say.
bloodline.
So how? Okay. So let's get this right. So are the Persians and the Amalekites the same?
Nope, that's the problem with these additions to Esther.
No, that's what you're saying.
No, I'm just
That's not
saying.
what King. Because I have it right here in my Bible, in my King James Bible. So I
It's in
rather
your-
believe.
It's in
I
your,
rather deal with that.
earlier
So
in the
point-
show, you just criticized people who are King James only, and now you're like, I got it right here, my KJV, brother.
Well, King James. Well, listen, King James has the Septuagint in it. So let's just do for argument's
Wait,
sake.
wait,
and
wait.
For time's sake.
What do you mean King James
Here
has
we
the
go.
Septuagint?
Let me say. Let
No,
me
Jordy,
say something.
answer
please.
this question.
Let me finish what I wanted to say. Don't ask me about King James.
What do you mean King James has the Septuagint in it? You are the most unclear speaker we've had on all night, and that's saying something. What do you mean the King James has the Septuagint in it? What do you mean? Explain to me what you meant by that.
Vocab. Let me answer. Hello. Are you doing the doo-doo sound?
What do you
doing the
mean?
doo-doo sound?
What do you mean King James
Stop.
has the
Let me answer.
I'm
Let me
waiting,
answer
but
this.
all I heard was silence like at a eulogy.
So is the Apocrypha in the Septuagint? Do 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 do.
All right, we're good,
Yeah,
man.
come on now. We can play this game, bro. We can play this game. So let's just cut the
we're-
game.
Let's
So you don't accept the Apocrypha, right? So you don't accept the Apocrypha. Let's just throw that out. The point is
Please.
Esther 9. You accept Esther 9.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Esther 9, it says in the Septuagint that he's a Macedonian. So who else famous in history besides Haman is a Macedonian?
Alex.
Xander, the
Yeah,
son of Philip,
That's obviously what I
of
was saying.
Macedon,
Yeah,
right?
Yep. Please make your point. I want to get to the next caller. Please hurry.
I know you do. So what I just proved to you is either one or two things. Either Alexander is a Edomite, or number two, the Amalekites migrated into Macedon at some point in history.
Man,
Those are your only two options.
Jordy, I want to thank you for bringing this deep message to the audience here today. And
No, it's not a deep message. One last thing
unlocking
before I go.
unlocking the secret wisdom
I just want to ask you one
you have
last
discovered
thing before I
about
go.
the Macedonians and the strangers who are of Persian blood but are not actually Persian. I want to thank you for the deep secrets you have unlocked. This audience will never be the same because now they know nothing.
Vocab. Last thing before I go, because you disrespected me for the last time.
I disrespected your bad argumentation and reading comprehension problems.
All right. Well, I don't think that scholars would agree with you concerning what it says in Esther 16 and 10. They would
Wait.
understand it how
Scholars
I understand
agree that Haman was actually a Persian from Macedonia? Oh, wait, no, not a
it.
Persian,
No,
because you
the
got that wrong,
scholars would
too.
agree. No, the scholars would agree that he was a Macedonian.
Okay, tell me the scholar's name. Who says that?
Sure, I can give it to you in a second.
1 second is up.
All right. So before I give it to you, I just want to ask you one final question. Genesis 20. I want to ask you about Genesis 27. Right? In the blessings. We'll just go over it really quick. We don't have to read it unless you want to. Genesis 27. Jacob steals the birthright. Right? Or steals the birthright. It says, verse 28. Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Do you agree that symbolizes dominion over earth?
Bro, I'm done answering your questions. You went to a completely different place. This is insane, bro.
I know. I had, like I said from the jump, I said I had two questions. concerning the Septuagint.
We're gonna
If you
actually. So you said scholars.
Okay.
So here's the last thing I'm gonna do, and then I'll bring up Israel Bound because he's been patient. I'm gonna actually bring up a scholarly. I'm gonna actually bring up a scholarly source. Okay.
You're going to bring up one scholarly source. That's what you're going to do.
How do you
but
know?
I-
How
I
do you
just-
how
I-
do you know what I'm gonna do? What is wrong with you? You said you were gonna give me one,
Because,
and
man-
you said you were gonna give me a scholarly source because you said scholars won't agree with me. You
I
said you were
said in
gonna
a
give it to
second.
me,
I s-
and
I said in
a
a
second
second,
has
but you
long
don't-
passed. Song has
All
long
right, but you're not
passed,
going to
right?
give me time. You're trying to rush me off the show now. So
No,
you're really not.
You've been on here for a long time. I don't think it's rushing. So I'm gonna actually show you a scholarly source. Okay. Let's go
But
to the
hold on,
Lexham. Let's go to no, it's not. Hold on. We're gonna go to the Lexham Bible Dictionary. Okay. And I want to show you something.
I want to
Okay.
ask you a question. I want to ask you. I had two questions. That was the
Cool,
first one.
cool. Here's what I'm gonna do.
And you
If
said,
you-
and you said, and you
if you
disagree.
can't-
disagree that Haman is a Macedonian. You don't agree with that, right?
If you can't give us the scholarly source that you're saying you have,
Vocab, but
you
you
should probably
stated
just
earlier that
leave.
you don't believe that. You said I don't believe that that Haman was a Macedonian.
I
That's
said
what
I
you
don't.
said.
I don't believe that most scholars would. You said most scholars would agree with you, and I said no.
I
That's
know.
not the
So
case.
you don't believe that he was a Macedonian.
So who are the
You
scholars
answered
who
my
agree
first
with you,
question.
Jordy? Who are the
So
scholars who agree with
answered
you?
My first question. Vocab.
Who? I've
really
answered a
trying to
lot
get
of your
off the show.
questions. This is not your first question.
Vocab. I'm really trying to be cool, bro. I just
Well,
trying to
you
say,
failed.
answer
Who
my
are the
first
scholars who say that he
Okay,
was a
let's just say-
Macedonian?
It's okay if I failed. The point is you answered my first question. You said that Haman is not a Macedonian, right? So I got my answer to the first question.
No.
Now my
You,
second
hold on,
question-
hold on. You actually didn't understand.
Well,
I said
let's see.
hypothetically, it could be possible, right, that you could have somebody who was an Amalekite who somehow, came from Macedonia. I was trying to give you a
and
sort
he
of
was trying to give the
a
kingdom to the
charitable
Macedonians.
reading, right? But then you just went off. So I'm going to show you this. This is going to be your scholarly resource. Since you didn't provide
Vocab,
me,
you're going to give one
since
source
you
again, and I predicted
stop
it,
interrupting
one
me. I'm going to turn you down. And this is from the Lexham Bible Dictionary. And at least I brought one, because guess how many you brought, Jordy? 0. All right, so check this out. Boisian, an epithet for Haman used 3 times in the Greek version. Hey, look, there's your favorite version of the Bible, the Septuagint, of Esther and the additions to Esther. You've been spending time there tonight, so we know you like it. It occurs in the Greek Esther 3:1 in the place of the Agagite and the additions to Esther 12:6. So this is important for you to know. In the Greek additions to Esther, Boisian is also inserted as Esther 9:10. Possible explanations. The Greek epithet for Haman is sometimes equated with Esther's epithet Hadassah, connecting the Greek version to the possible pagan roots of the Purim festival and debates surrounding the Hebrew adaptation of it. And then it lists a scholar for the source there. It is also possible to understand Boisian as a simple scribal error in translating the Hebrew Agagite, which would have become Agagios instead of Boisios in Greek. Omnisan, handbook, so another scholar reference, because this is an entry. Another possibility is that Haman may have been anachronistically labeled a Boisian in identification with the Persian general Bajoses, assassin of Artaxerxes II, with whom he may have been a co-conspirator. Job's assassination. So notice there's 3 resources listed there. And what it's showing you how is in later times, sometimes you would have these people been given other names to identify them in a certain way after the fact. But it's showing you that's anachronistic. So it's problematic. The Greek Esther 9:24 also describes Haman as a Macedonian instead of the Agagite, leading some scholars to conclude that the epithet, whether Boisian, Agagite, or Macedonian, all amount, listen to this, here's the important thing, because you said you're going to bring me scholars, I'm bringing you scholars, all amount to a generic negative description of Haman with a possible anti-Jewish nuance, translating it as a nickname, braggart, or bully. And again, Omnisan Handbook, Klein's Esther Scroll. So these are scholars who have written books on this, and it gives a page reference. So you said you're going to bring me scholars, you never brought me a scholar. I'm bringing you an entry that references multiple scholars. The epithet, you see that again, there's a reading comprehension problem. You don't understand when you read a dictionary entry to a scholarly work like this, like the Lexham Bible Dictionary, it mentions multiple scholars in defense of its positions. So you're not understanding this is not one. It's a dictionary entry that references many. The epithet, the Agagite, connects Haman to the Amalekite king Agag, enemy of Saul, who was Mordecai's ancestor. Now it goes on and talks more, but I can tell that this is not going anywhere with you. But you're really cooked on this because this explains it. And if you knew how the Hebrews did things, it was a common thing for them to give negative nicknames to their enemies. And that's exactly what happened here. So these additions are anachronistic, not actually trying to tell you about his bloodline. So you brought 0, even though you said it was going to be a second. It never happened. And I thank you very much for joining today's Smoke Room. You've been an interesting guest. Call back next time and do better in Jesus' name. God bless. Peace out. Israel Bound, looking like a Jedi Knight. How you doing? I'll change the name on the screen.
Vocab Malone, how you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
Ooh, interesting convo there.
Yes, sir.
But it's the Smoke Room, so let's get to it.
Real quick, I see a couple comments in the live section I want to address. My bad before you get started. Real quick, shout out to everyone in the live chat. Minister Meech came through with the super chat and the funny comment. Galilee had Gentiles, so I guess that's a cut. Yeah, that was kind of funny when he said that. And then, we have a lot of people that are finding the last caller very fascinating, very interesting gentleman. Hopefully he calls back sometimes and we can do better. Sorry if it was a nightmare, guys. I'm sorry. And he was tying it into some kind of wild conspiracy theory, which I would be very willing to listen to, but he thought I was like part of some conspiracy to cover it up. It's like, my goodness. But that was an interesting discussion, and I think we saw some of the problems, though, with it. And shout out to D New. We got D New and Nate, the best mods in the business, but we also got some other great mods, too. Okay, so go ahead, Israel Bound. I'm listening to you, my friend.
All right, cool. So I would like to challenge your assertion that that the name Israel was used to denote any particular inhabitant of the land at any point, really.
Help me understand what you mean there.
So earlier you said that when one was I said that backwards. I'm sorry. You're right. You actually said that the word that they could all be referred collectively as Jews.
Oh, I was saying that by the New Testament times, you have situations where Jews describes more than just people who would be descended from Judah. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, but that would only be, that's true, but that would only be from the standpoint to the extent of the southern kingdom, meaning you had Simeon, Benjamin, Judah, and of course you had Levites in all nations, so they would obviously be there. But outside of that, the northern kingdom tribes would have never been referred to as Jews. Case in point, the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman at the well, she called herself a Samaritan, first off, and she understood that she was a descendant of Jacob. So that kills that notion, and I think that's problematic because it causes all kinds of different misunderstandings about how things work once we get into these conversations that we had. But that was just in passing as I came in.
Well, I got something for that in the book of Esther. There's a couple places we could go, but one is in the book of Esther. By the way, I'm not denying that you couldn't have the Jew kind of more properly basically meant Judahite, and in certain contexts that's what it tends to mean. I'm not denying that, by the way. I'm not saying that Jew always meant all Hebrews. I'm just saying there are times where it's used synonymous or interchangeable. If I can kind of try to show you one. Let me see if I can bring this up.
I'm sorry, but I was going to make an assertion while you did that I don't think you could show where any Northern Kingdom person was ever referred to as a Jew.
Well, help me understand about what's the verse on front of us. Do you see, I don't know, are you able to see this? This is Esther 8:17.
I see it.
So you told me that a northern person could never be described as a Jew, right?
No, unless they inhabited the land.
Okay. So where were these people living during the book of Esther?
Can you read it? It's kind of small.
I got you. Yeah, I understand it
I
might be. No, I understand it might be kind of small. I understand. That's why I was wondering if you could see it. But yeah, I will read it.
and then I have a visual, issue as well. So.
Oh no, I got it. I wasn't trying to call. I was asking if you could see it so we could refer to the same thing. I wasn't like calling you out on it or something.
Yeah.
But here,
Okay.
so here, let me read here in Esther at the end of the book. Starting in verse 16, and there's other places, but let me read this. For the Jews, there was light and gladness and joy and honor, and in each and every province and in each and every city, wherever the king's word and his law reached, there was gladness and joy for the Jews, a feast and a holiday, and many among the people of the land became Jews, for the dread of the Jews had fallen on them.
Yeah, if you literally read it, it said, the people of the land. It's talking about the land of Judah.
No, it's not. These are people. No, it's not, because this is under Persian This is under Persian captivity. They're in lots of places. They're all over the land that is owned by the Persians. Now, I'm not saying they weren't there. By the way, you could have had very well people there, but let me show you. Let me show you the context here. Verse 9. No, hold on. I just want to show you something. Look at Esther 8:9. It says, it was written according to all Mordecai commanded to the Jews, the satraps, the governors, and the princes of the province, which extended from India to Ethiopia, 127 provinces, to every province according to its script, and to every people according to the tongue, as well as to the Jews according to their script and their tongue. So these aren't only Jews who live in Judah. These are Jews who are all over.
No, but it's distinguishing Jews from everybody else. It's not lumping everybody together. Jews are Jews, and whoever else is whoever they are. Like, it's not calling everybody Jews.
Of course
by
not.
any stretch of the imagination.
No, but I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's doing that, Israel bound. What I'm saying is these Jews are Jews who lived all over, not just in Judah. That was my point.
I agree, but I totally agree with that. But what I'm saying is that they would be referred to that no matter what. But you will never see a person from the lineage of Ephraim or Reuben or Gad. You will never see them referred to in the Bible as Jews. None of them.
Well, so the thing with the term Jew, it's a later development, but nonetheless, you still have times where.
Right. Don't fall on your sword too early, vocab now.
So, like when Jesus is described as the King of the Jews, right? That's what they crucified him as, right?
Came out of that lineage.
When I'm talking about when Jesus was crucified, right, it says King of the Jews. That's what they put over his head. Mm-hmm. But we know that there were still some Northern Kingdom Jews around during the time of Jesus. Remember the old lady who was from, I think, Asher when he was a baby? Sure. Remember that? So that's one example of somebody. So this is within his lifetime, is my point. And yet he's described as the King of the Jews. And the reason why is, with the dispersal of the lost tribes of the northern kingdom, surviving Israelites adopted the name Jews to identify themselves with the politically and economically dominant tribe, which is Judah.
No, listen.
Well, you're saying no, but it's just a fact.
No, it's not a fact. You haven't demonstrated that on the screen.
First of all,
until you do that, then it will become factual. Right now, you're just saying it.
No, because number one, I showed you in Esther. We kind of already dealt with that, and then I gave you the example. Then I gave you the example of Jesus being called King of the Jews. Those two things show you that you can have sometimes. Now, remember, I granted that generally speaking, it might describe a Judahite, and it is a general rule. All I was saying is that there's instances where it refers to all Jews. That's all I was saying.
I'm saying never does it do it.
Well, I just gave some examples, so I guess we're at an impasse there.
I got you. No problem. I'll just say this and we can move on. What you showed was Jews being distinguished from other people. And what you're showing is a lack of understanding of what Jews really are. Why did Paul call himself a Jew?
Because he was a Jew.
Why?
Because he was.
What made Paul a Jew?
What made Paul a Jew? That he was a descendant from one of the 12 tribes, specifically there in Benjamin. So actually, it's funny you brought up Paul. I like that because it proves you're not Correct. I'll show you what I mean by that, Israel bound. Number one, was Paul a resident of Judah? Where was Paul originally from? Saul of Tarsus. Right. So that's where he's native to. Number one, that's why he's a Roman citizen. Number one. So that's important to understand. Number two, he's a Benjamite. He's a Benjamite. So he's not properly speaking a Judahite or of the tribe of Judah. But you're just saying it's not for the northern kingdom, but it already shows it can refer to more than just someone who's a tribe of Judah. I'm just showing you it branches out further because
you can tell me what person was ever referred to as a Jew that was from the northern kingdom. Just show me the person.
Well, I just showed you in Esther. There's northern kingdom Jews in that context.
No, you didn't show a single person in Esther that said this person whose name is this is referred to as a Jew.
Well, I guess what we got to do is we look at verses and we use a logical understanding of what it says. But you're asking for sort of a simplistic version. I guess, I'll let you keep looking for that if that's what you require. But I think we're more than satisfied using logical implication. But go ahead. Here's what I'm saying. What is the point? What is the point of all this? What does this do for anybody? What are you trying? What are you after?
Okay. The point is, you made an assertion. This is the smoke room, first off.
Yeah, but I showed I was right. You don't agree, that's fine.
Right. So I'm not touchy about it. The facts will show when people go and do these investigations and see that exactly what I said. You'll never go in the Bible and see a person from the northern kingdom referred to as a Jew. That's a fact. I just gave you a fact. Now we can move past that. Now, all right.
I gotta tell you something. I'm mild. I'm kind of like, I feel like I showed you, and since you're like, oh no, you vocab, you still don't get it, and this and that, I'm gonna show you something that's I think really just gonna put this to bed. And I don't know if you've looked at this verse before, but I think it'll help you in this discussion. We're gonna go to Jeremiah chapter. We're gonna go to Jeremiah chapter 34. So I'm in Jeremiah chapter 34. It's on the screen, but I'll read it to you. Read you Jeremiah 34, 9 here. That each man should let his male slave go free, and each man his female slave, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, so that no one should enslave them, each being a Jew, his brother. Hebrew is literally synonymous with Jew in this context. So, I mean, do you concede?
Jews are Hebrews by default. Like, you're not proving a thing with that vocab.
Wait.
And scholarship, I don't have to argue it. I don't have to argue it because scholarship will
It literally uses the term Hebrew and Jew synonymously here.
Hold up, wait a minute. A Hebrew is the nation in which Esau comes from.
Hold on. Esau's not relevant to this. Could you pull up Jeremiah 34:9 in your Bible? I want you to read it yourself.
I'm letting you talk. You cutting me off, but go ahead. It's your show, sir.
I'm just saying, could you look at Jeremiah 34:9 because I feel like you're not feeling the impact of this verse upon your argument.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying if you could look at it with your eyes. Like, do you have a Bible?
I already told you that I have a visual impairment.
Oh, I'm not saying, but are you able to read like a Bible that you have or no?
Yeah. Hold up, wait a minute.
I get it if you can't read what's on the screen. No, I understand if you can't read what's on the screen. I'm not trying to stress you.
No, I got you. Let me grab something.
Okay, because here it says each man should let his male slave go free, and each man his female slave, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, so that no one should enslave them, each being a Jew, his brother. So the point there is the term Hebrew and Jew are literally used synonymous. Jeremiah 34:9.
What translation is that?
I got the Legacy Standard Bible. I can look at it in another translation if you'd like.
Because I can't go and see the word Jew in the Old Testament of the Bible unless you came with something new. So I'm not going to respect that because that word is not in the Old Testament of the Bible. So let's just move on because
I don't understand what you're saying there. Can you explain to me what you meant?
The word Jew is not in the Old Testament of the Bible. So how can you be reading it out of Jeremiah?
Yeah, it is. The Hebrew word there is literally Yehudi.
Okay, but
can you
you're
pull up
saying,
the blue letter and look at it? It's Yehudi. Jew is in the
okay, I
Bible.
got you. Okay, what? No, I got you. What I'm saying, vocab, ultimately is this:
But hold on, you just said you
is
couldn't
that
respect it, but you were wrong, brother.
no, I still stand as corrected, but you're not going to relate to what I'm saying. But so ultimately, what I'm saying is that you cannot provide a source that shows Northern Kingdom Israelites being referred to as Jews by specification.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. And unless you can do that, you should just yield that argument because you cannot.
Bro, why would I yield when I've showed you multiple verses? And the
Because
last
you
one was
cannot do
the last one was a gut
you
punch.
you
The last one
literally
was a gut
said
punch. Then
Jesus
you told
was
me Jew wasn't in the Hebrew text. I literally showed you in Logos wherever it is. This is like if you guys ever seen Kung Pao, and there's a guy named Wimp Lo, and he's fighting,
how
and
you filibuster.
and hold on, and he goes like this. He goes, Israel bound. Have you ever seen Kung Pao? It's kind of a funny movie. He goes, I am bleeding, making me the victor. That's you right now, bro. But check it out. I'll leave you on if you want to come back. But let me talk to Pharaoh Mizrahim because I feel like he's been waiting a while too. But
I waited for. I've been here literally a few minutes. Like you. I
okay, what's
waited
your
for like a
last thing you
whole.
want to say? You got the last word on this. Go ahead.
Okay, but that's not. That's why I kept trying to move past that because I said I came in that was in passing, but you wanted to hold me to this argument that you couldn't prove. So what I'm saying, what I was actually getting to, I had a question for you, and that question is when the New Testament, and if you don't agree with what I'm saying about the scriptures, we can pull them up, but I don't think you'll disagree with it. But when the scriptures speak of being in bondage to the law, are you familiar with that verbiage?
You talking about like in Galatians and stuff like that?
Or Romans
Yeah.
8, I think
Okay.
you can find
Yeah.
it there,
Yeah.
right? What does that mean?
Being in bondage to the law?
Being in bondage to the law, right?
Uh-huh.
What is that telling us?
Well, I guess I want to know what verse specific you're talking about because I can't answer if I don't know the verse.
That's fair. That's fair. So, okay, so I'll give you I'll make it more in depth. So, if it says we were in bondage to the law, then Christ was that freedom from the law, right?
Yeah, Christ. It depends on what you mean by all this is the problem. But
Hold up, man.
I'm trying to.
Did Christ free us from the law or no?
Well, he gave us a new, better covenant. So now we're fulfilling the law. We uphold the law. It depends. Again, it depends what you mean by this. So if you mean, did he free us from the stipulations and the fact that our sin is held against us? Yes. But Romans 3 says that we uphold the law. So how do we uphold the law? We uphold the law by following Christ, huh?
Okay, I got you. It's not an aha moment like we come accustomed to saying. I'm not trying to catch you up on anything. I'm just trying to see that we have an agreement that the law was once referred to as a form of bondage, but through faith in Christ, you are free, so to say, quote unquote, from the law.
Well, I think
Roughly
so.
speaking,
Here,
right?
but what I was saying is, I wanted to know the verse you're talking about. You're probably talking about Galatians 5:1, so it makes it difficult. Like if people want to talk about a verse, but they don't have the verse ready.
Christians go out every day talking about how we free from the law.
Okay,
Now
okay.
you seem to be having a
Well,
misunderstanding.
brother, don't get mad at me because you don't have a verse, but I have a verse for you. I think this is what you mean. For freedom, Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. So the yoke of slavery in this instance,
law, right?
yes, correct, yes. So maybe that's what you mean.
Okay, all right, cool. I knew you had it in you. So in order to be freed, because in order to be free from a law, didn't you have to be a participant of that law first? How do you free from something?
No.
Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on, wait, let me finish. How do you get free from something that was never given to you? Meaning, because if you're saying that this message is to the Gentiles, which you are, when were they ever bound to the law?
Right. That's easy. And for the stranger,
No, it's not.
yes, it is. Well, let me
No, it's
answer.
not.
And for the stranger and the Israelite, one law.
No. No, sir.
Well, are you saying?
Listen, we talking about.
Are you saying the Bible doesn't say that?
Listen, the law that's being spoken of in Galatians is the law of Moses, right?
Yes, but when the stranger joins themselves to Israel, then they are under the law of Israel. And Romans, Paul talks about how Gentiles have a law of themselves as well, because they know what's right or wrong based upon their conscience, their internal witness.
That's not the law that Christ came to free them from. Now,
actually, but it is because you're saying you're making it limited to Mosaic law.
That's what it's talking about, the Mosaic law. What are you talking about?
Okay, I'm going to go to Romans. I'll show you what we're talking about here, my friend. Okay, so all right. So this is a fascinating discussion here. Let's start, I think, probably in Romans chapter 2. I guess let's start verse 9. There will be tribulation and distress for every human being who does evil. Notice how the Gentile is going to be judged too. The Jew first and also the Greek, but glory and honor and peace for everyone who does good, the Jew first and also the Greek, for God shows no partiality. For all who have sinned without the law will also perish without the law, and all who have sinned under the law will be judged by the law, so they're all going to die. For it is not the hearers of the law who are righteous before God, but the doers of the law who will be justified. Notice that. For when Gentiles who do not have the law by nature do what the law requires, they are a law to themselves, even though they do not have the law. For they show that the work of the law is written on their hearts, exactly what I said, while their conscience also bears witness, and their inflicting thoughts accuse or even excuse them on that day when, according to my gospel, God judges the secrets of men by Christ Jesus. So I can go on and read there more, but it already proves the point. All are condemned because all have broken the law in a sense. Now, if you mean were Gentiles given the Mosaic law? No. But are there Gentiles who were under the Mosaic law when they joined themselves to the house of Israel? Yes.
So my point is, and then I'll let you go because I know you said you got somebody else up there.
Yes, sir.
My point is that the only way you can make this happen is by making the because according to your doctrine, there's a doctrine for the Jews, which Christ went to initially, and there's a doctrine for the Gentile, or there's a message for the Gentiles, which you say is through Paul and the churches, right? But now you can't present me any message or salvation through the Bible to the northern kingdom of Israel, the scattered tribes. Who went to them? What are they doing? Where's their message? Christ seemed to have no idea about them. Neither did Paul or any of the other disciples.
Well, to the Jew first, that means all of the house of Israel. So
no, that means the southern kingdom of Israel.
Well, that's our disagreement. But all right, I'm going to go to the next guy, and I appreciate I gave you the last word. All right, have a beautiful day and a beautiful night. Get some rest, my man. All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, last but not least, Pharaoh Mizraim. How you doing? Thank you for waiting. You are live on the Smoke Room. Hello? Pharaoh Mizraim, what's going on? You're there. You're unmuted. Go ahead. I can hear you, but if you say something. Pharaoh, going once, going twice, going 3 times. Sold. All right. Well, I mean, he was there. I don't know what happened. I don't know why you'd want to wait that long and then not jump on. That's kind of an odd thing. Guys, listen. I have a debate coming up here this Saturday against Anonymous Hebrew, and it's a very interesting thesis we got going on. It's, is the church better than Israel? Very controversial thing we've decided to debate there. And I'm, of course, going to argue yes. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a fascinating discussion. And so that's one thing that we get to talk about this Saturday. Now, tomorrow, I am going to have on, hopefully, Anton, who was involved with the Billy Carson situation. He's the producer who really made it all happen. And so I'm looking forward to having him on. And thank you, Dee New, for setting that up. She did the work behind the scenes to make that happen. And so that should be great. Again, I'm going to thank you all for the Super Chat contributors and Minister Meech and J3 for coming on. You guys did an amazing job. We got some amazing apologists that are just coming out, just out the woodworks and just doing amazing work. And I really mean that, by the way. 2025 has a lot of good stuff in store. I know there's a lot of comments I missed and stuff, but I do see Radar Apologetics. Please subscribe to him. Now, Valley Hebrew, you seem to say that I was wrong about Caleb, but maybe you were talking about there. Like I said, remember I mentioned there was more than one Caleb, but all the examples you gave were not of the other example. So that was the weird thing. You see what I'm saying? I did say, hey, yeah, there's more than one Caleb. And, but the examples you gave weren't the other Caleb. They were our Caleb that we were talking about in that discussion. Very fascinating, interesting stuff. Wouldn't you guys agree? I hope so, and I hope you enjoyed it. We are going to jam out. God bless. Much love. Peace out. Shalom. Doing a smoke room again next week.
How many roads? Too many signs, I can't read them. Wouldn't recognize a turn even if I seen it. Been driving all along, feel like